events need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays on GB News.
We're late! Get up!
This Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, wake up with GB News.
For the finest festive start to your Christmas for you and the whole family.
Christmas breakfast on GB News, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day from 6 a.m.
I got you this.
Oh, good. OK, I got you a little something.
Oh, I'm sure it's nice.
There's only 3 people you can trust in life. Your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Akua, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle.
Could you be quiet? What is this? It's my new teeth. It's your new teeth.
I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christys Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christys Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa!
Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamonn.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Have a great Saturday night with me, Leo Curse, on this Saturday Night Showdown. It's a crazy world out there, so come and make fun of it with me, my panel of comedians, and a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about. This Saturday Night Showdown is your front row ticket to the clown show every Saturday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox,
That's right, we want to hear from you,
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello and welcome to Merry Christmas Britain. I'm Dawn Neeson, and for the next 3 hours I'll be keeping you company on TV, online and on digital radio, keeping you up to date on the stories that really matter to you this Christmas Eve. Coming up this hour, the year's been a big one for celebrity news. We'll give you the rundown on all the gossip from Wagatha Christie to the Beckhams. And sport, huge at Christmas, isn't it? Arsenal are heading into Christmas top of the Premier League after drawing 1-1 away to Liverpool. We'll bring you all of yesterday's big football results and the ones to look forward to, as well as Anthony Joshua dominating performance in Saudi Arabia. And it's Christmas Eve. Come on, it's Christmas Eve and you're not ready, are you? And historically, this was the time of year largely associated with telling ghost stories. This tradition has been since lost, but this afternoon we'll be bringing it the stories with ghost investigator Richard Case, and that's going to get very spooky. So all you've got to do is get in touch. Send me your thoughts on gbviews at gbnews.com or message me on our socials. Really simple, just at gbnews. But first, here's the news with the very lovely Polly Middlehurst.
Dawn, thank you. Let's bring you some more detail on that breaking news we brought you in our last half hour of news. We were telling you about Northumbria Police, who are appearing for witnesses after 2 teenagers were killed in a 3-car collision in Cramlington. That happened just before 9:30 last night. 18-year-old Connor Lapworth and 15-year-old Corey Mavin, both from Blythe, died of their injuries after that crash. Their families are being supported by police liaison officers, but police are still asking for anyone with dash cam footage or who witnessed that crash to come forward. Now, in other news today, millions are set to be on the roads today, with the AA saying drivers can expect lengthy traffic jams as people travel to be with their families. The Met Office is warning flying debris and power cuts may disrupt those last-minute getaway plans, as meteorologists are predicting wind gusts of up to 70 miles an hour hitting parts of Scotland and northern areas of England. Rail services disrupted as well today. Major London stations closed for a few days. That includes Euston, King's Cross, Paddington, all having essential engineering works done. Travel editor Lisa Mino spoke to GB News earlier. She says careful planning is the answer.
Services are going to be finishing much earlier than usual. Northern trains, again, having problems due to number of staff availability, so lots of trains being cancelled there. Anyone who's looking to take a train today, please check before you leave the house, because things are not looking 100% great. On the roads, it's going to be very busy. 21 million trips are being taken over this weekend as people head home for Christmas. And we've got that lunch crunch that should be the one that you're trying to avoid. So between the hours of 12 and 2, that's where motoring organisations say the roads are going to be at their busiest.
Now, the Prime Minister is urging people today to focus on the promise of a brighter future in his address to the nation this Christmas Eve. Rishi Sunak saying Christmas is a time of hope, but it's also important to remember those who are facing difficulties. He thanked NHS staff, police and the armed forces for sacrificing their time with their families over Christmas in the service of others. His message coming after the latest round of strikes by junior doctors in England and plans for a strike in the new year beginning 3rd of January.
Christmas is a time of peace, joy, compassion, a time of hope and a promise of a better world. And today, as we look ahead, let's keep that promise of a brighter future burning into the new year. Wherever you are, and whatever you are doing for the festivities, I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Sunak, well, in his annual Christmas message, the Labour leader says the story of Jesus is a reminder that in darker times, hope and love are always worth advocating for. Sir Keir Starmer said it is time to rejoice in the birth of Jesus Christ and rekindle bonds as families and friends share joy, he said. He also thanked the NHS, Royal Mail workers and the military for their work over the festive period, praising as well the generosity of churches and charities.
As communities across Britain gather together for a period of faith and festivities, I want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas. Throughout the Christmas period, we see the bonds of kinship rekindled as families and friends share in the joy, the hope and the optimism that Christmas provides.
Now, the Home Secretary has reiterated that the government is working as quickly as possible to stop small boat crossings. Speaking on a visit to Bedfordshire Police Station, James Cleverly said the UK has reduced the number of illegal migrants reaching Britain by a third. He said at a time when other European nations were seeing numbers increase.
I'm not going to aim for an arbitrary point in time. We're working on this as quickly as possible. I visited the team of Border Force officials at Luton Airport earlier who are returning people to their countries of origins, the people who should not be here, the people who have come here illegally. We are sending them home. We intend to make sure we get the Rwanda legislation through as quickly as possible, make sure we have that deterrent, and continue working with the international partners with whom we have fantastic relationships.
That's James Cleverly, and he has had to apologise today for joking about putting a rape drug in his wife's drinks just hours after announcing plans to crack down on drink spiking. James Cleverly reportedly joked about a little bit of Rohypnol in his wife's drink every night so she doesn't realise better men are out there. The comments said to have been made at a Downing Street party, which are normally off the record, but the Sunday Mirror has broken convention and decided to report it. Now, the Royal Navy is deploying a warship to Guyana as tensions grow with neighbouring Venezuela. HMS Trent will take part in joint exercises in the region as well, with the MOD confirming it's all part of the government's defence diplomacy strategy. The UK working with the South American nation to ensure its territorial integrity after a historical dispute with Venezuela over minerals and oil. His Majesty the King will be delivering his second Christmas message from a room decorated with a living Christmas tree for the first time. A photograph has been released. If you're watching on television, you can see ahead of tomorrow's broadcast. King Charles is a long-term environmental campaigner, so sustainable and natural ornaments, we're told, are hanging from that tree, which will also be replanted at a later date. And a reminder, you can see the King's speech right here on GB News, 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, Christmas Day. Let's take you live now to the progress of one very busy man today. Father Christmas is on the move, we can report. He's just left Antarctica. He is, of course, delivering presents to children around the world right now, all the ones on the nice list, of course. We understand he's on his way to New Zealand. This live feed coming to us from the NORAD Santa tracker. That's the North American Aerospace Defence Command, who are protecting Santa as he flies across the world delivering those all-important presents. As I said, he is on his way to New Zealand. NORAD tracking that annual trip since 1955 after one child phoned the command centre asking to know where Santa was. Well, now you know. This is GB News across the UK on TV, in your car, on digital radio and on your smart speaker by saying play GB News. This is Britain's news channel.
Thank you very much, Polly. I'm Dawn Newsroom, and I'll be with you for the next 3 hours. And I have some very special Christmas companions join me on the panel today. The broadcaster Esther Stanhope and former Labour advisor Matthew Larser. Thank you so much for joining me. Looking lovely and festive. Esther.
Yes.
Yes. Unfortunately, someone didn't get the memo, did they?
No, they didn't.
No.
But you never know. We might find a bit of sparkle as the afternoon rolls on. It's a challenge, Dawn.
Or you could. You maybe got your sparkly underpants on or your sparkly socks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or...
I thought we were on the bar stool, so I didn't put the Christmas socks on.
I know. We're not on.
If you want one. Later. We'll put it on later.
We're not on the bar stool, considering we actually have alcohol.
Exactly.
We're having a more relaxed sort of sit down.
Yeah,
because it is actually Christmas Eve.
It's exciting.
Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Because I can't believe you both said that.
Only because I don't have to do very much, because I go to friends, because all my family are in Australia, my parents are gone, so friends look after me. 5th Christmas I worked out we've had together, so I'm basically in their hands. So I don't have much to do. No, I don't have to cook. So and tomorrow they've organised it, so we're having a walk in between the two, so we're meeting at one place walking, so we're not even allowed to bring anything because we can't carry it on the 3-mile walk.
Oh my God, that sounds wonderful. How about you, Esther?
Yeah, well, it's my daughter's birthday tomorrow. She's going to be 18, so we have to have a double celebration every Christmas. So we have it kind of regimented. We have to spend an hour with non-festive wrapping paper.
God.
and we spend an hour of birthday time.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
so
that's
you have dedicated birthday time.
Yeah, we have dedicated birthday
I'm always fascinated by people who have their birthday on Christmas Day, because my birthday is exactly 2 weeks before your daughter, on the 11th of December, and that's bad enough, to be honest with you.
Yes.
Most people, especially the husband, it's like, one present's all right, isn't it? Like, you wouldn't do that if it was July, would you?
Swap the husband.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't you think Christmas Day is better than today, though? Because it's not only one of my friends hosting tomorrow's birthday's today. He's French. I've just sent his bon anniversaire gif. But my old boss Ed Miliband had his birthday on Christmas Eve as well. So that's even worse because everybody's running around getting ready. It's not a day. It's a day of preparation, not celebration.
Yeah, no, that's true. It is a very busy day, obviously. But
at least tomorrow you can carve the time out.
Yeah, but you've got 3 hours to sit and relax watching us. You don't have to do anything at the moment, OK? Because you are nearly ready.
You can wrap a present in front of the telly.
So I will be cooking. I'll be doing we're doing everything in one day. In
so
our
you're
family.
doing birthday cake and then Christmas cake?
Yeah. I can't tell you what the birthday cake's
No, of course not. No.
But we're going to be making the main bit of the cake tonight. We've already got all the Christmas stuff ready to go tomorrow. And we've wrapped 2 types of presents. We've got the sparkly Christmas presents there, and then don't tell anyone we've got the other presents.
Got a little something for you, yeah.
So what do you do first? Do you do the birthday stuff first or the Christmas stuff?
No, we do the stockings.
That's...
I've got 2 kids and they have to do stockings in the morning and then breakfast, and then it's like, OK, birthday time.
Oh, bless her. I do. I guess New Year's Eve is probably the worst day of the year.
Or New Year's Day.
Yeah,
when everyone's got hangovers, even worse. At least you're opening champagne on New Year's Eve, aren't you?
Yeah.
I think New Year's Day is probably the absolute worst. Christmas Day, the second worst. Christmas Eve, the second worst.
Yeah.
I think Christmas Day is fun.
Off school though, and you could kind of go out to the pub. So my daughter's turning 18, so for the first time we're going to try and find a pub open. I think there's one pub near us in Spitalfields in London that's going to be open at 12 o'clock. She's going to buy us a pint.
That's so weird, because if I was going to start the day in that very pub if I wasn't coming to GB News in the morning. So we nearly had a Christmas
I'm
Eve and
also
Christmas
there,
Day
by
together.
the way, because it's a pub, and why wouldn't I be? Because it's so...
And you're an East Londoner.
Exactly, yes. Right, OK, we have got some music to listen to now as well. Another part of Christmas is the music, obviously. The Christmas #1 is always a huge moment every December, and this week we had a live performance, I can't believe we got this, here on GB News of arguably one of the best Christmas songs of all time. Roy Wood and the Rock and Roll Band performed I Wish It Could Be Christmas Every Day on Farage as it celebrates its 50th anniversary. Can you believe it? Let's have a listen, shall we?
Stand up, turn round. Roy Wood, take it away!
so brilliant, isn't it? And there's nothing like Christmas music to really get you going, is there? That's brilliant. But this is Christmas Eve, OK? So I want to know what you're up to. I want to see your pictures of your Christmas tree. You dressed up, have you got a Santa jumper on? Have you dressed your pets up? I mean, we had some brilliant dog pictures the other day of little dogs in their cute little nativity outfits. Very simple to get them into us. gbviews@gbnews.com. So get loads of them in, because it's all about you, this programme. It's not about me sitting here in my sparkly jacket. It's about you and what you're doing as well, because it's Christmas Eve, folks. Now, joining me in the studio to go through some of the we just heard Roy Wood there, some of the other Christmas showbiz hits of the year, is the celebrity interviewer and lifestyle editor, Suzanne Baum. Suzanne, thank you very much for joining us on Christmas Eve afternoon. Looking absolutely gorgeous and sparkly as well. Now, it's been a huge year for showbiz, hasn't it? I mean, there's some really, really big stories. So, I mean, what do you want to start off talking about? I mean,
Well, I've been doing this job for years, and what's actually stuck out for me this year is the celebrity documentaries. There are so many. I think kicking off with the Beckham one, which I think was the most popular watched one on Netflix, I loved it. I watched it twice. I watched it the first time, I thought too football-orientated for me. I've got 3 boys and, you know, my whole house is football. I then watched it again and really, really loved it. And I thought they came across in a really good light.
Did you? Now, I must admit, I obviously covered the story at the time, and I interviewed Rebecca Luce at the time as well.
Wow.
And I was watching it, and I thought, initially I thought it was great, and I thought, you know, and I thought Victoria came across really well.
Yeah, are you talking about that one bit with Rebecca Luce?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I felt he was a bit dismissive.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, well, oh, this hurt my wife very much, and it wasn't all this exactly, it was you, wasn't it?
Yeah, I agree with you. Just on that was the one bit that kind of made me cringe and made me think that wasn't nice, but the rest I really loved.
It was a good insight, wasn't it? Yeah. It was a fascinating insight.
Really good insight. I mean, there have been so many. There's been the Colin Rooney one, which obviously on the back of the whole Agatha Christie crazy legal law case. I watched it with an open mind because having sort of followed the legal battle between the two of them...
that was fascinating, wasn't it, its own right?
Yeah, it was a bizarre legal battle, but I like the Colin Rooney
I haven't watched it, I must admit.
I did enjoy it. I mean, I watched it, I think, kind of when there was nothing else to watch, but I enjoyed it. I love the Robbie Williams one.
I haven't seen that one either.
OK.
Was that the one where he was talking about his love life with his wife and the fact that...
Yeah, but it was just a throwback to all his old music, you know, his story. I thought it was fascinating. And what I liked about it, because I've got this thing with celebrities, you know, there's often a filter and, you know, a lot of fakeness comes with it, but he was the opposite. He basically, you know, opens up about his mental health, opens up about his struggles, and I think it makes, you know, when a celebrity does that, it just takes the gloss off and shows they're real human beings.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we've had some sad losses this year as well, haven't we?
Oh, my gosh, yes. I mean, I think Matthew Perry, I think his death was really quite shocking. I mean, I've always watched Friends, and we've been having it on repeat now ever since that news, and now coming to light how he died.
Yeah.
Sinead O'Connor. I'm just trying to think who else. So Tina Turner. I mean, for me, I was a huge Tina Turner fan. When Tina passed, I was like, wow. And, you know, continues to play her music. And, yeah.
And Shane McGowan, obviously we lost very recently from the Pogues.
Yeah.
We're thinking that was going to be #1, but it isn't. And
absolutely, yeah. Yeah, that was shocking as well.
Yeah.
Not so much royal stories this year. Last year when I was on your show, we did a lot on the royals. I think, for me, I'm not a huge royal fan, but you just spoke about dogs a second ago, dressing up. I loved Camilla's dress at the King's coronation. So for me, I think when we're talking about the royals, I love the coronation.
What? Just refresh my memory.
She had a beautiful white gown on, and embroidered at the bottom were 2 of her rescue dogs.
That's right, yes.
And I'm not a fashion journalist, but for some reason, I just eyed into that and loved the King's coronation, actually. So
I did. I must admit, Susan, I was absolutely glued to it. In spite of myself, I was watching it for work, obviously, but I also thought, I'm really enjoying this. No one does pomp and ceremony like we do.
Yeah.
And even though it was a cut-down version...
Yeah, I just loved it. I love seeing what everyone wore. And my standout show of the year is...
This deserves a drum roll, doesn't it? Come on.
Was I'm a Celebrity, because...
our very own Nigel was in there.
Yeah, exactly. I've watched it forever. I've watched it with my kids as they've grown up, and every year they're like, who've you interviewed on this show, Mum? And normally I'm like, you know, as a celebrity interviewer, I have interviewed a handful of them. This year, Josie I've interviewed. I thought Josie came across brilliantly.
She came across lovely, didn't
Just
she?
the most sweetest person.
Yeah.
And Sam, the winner, I thought was phenomenal. In fact, he deserved, for me, one post on my Instagram. And I don't normally, you know, comment or even phone in or even vote. I actually voted for Sam, which is the first time I've ever voted on this show ever.
That's a confession, blimey.
Yeah, I actually thought he didn't deserve my vote, but I thought he came across so well. I just loved the whole, you know, just his personality, his character. I thought for kids that are struggling, for, you know, people that have got ADHD.
Yes, true, very important.
His struggles to life and just being a ball of energy because, you know, often you get celebrities in there and, you know, they're boring to watch, but he just gave that boost that I think was really
And we have to mention, talking of balls, let's talk Glitter Balls, the other big reality TV juggernaut, Strictly Come Dancing, only finished a week ago. It feels like a lot longer already.
Yeah.
And we had the magnificent Amy Dowden.
Well, I was going to touch upon Amy. I mean, my father's a breast cancer specialist, so whenever any celebrity or anyone gets breast cancer and it's on the news, you know, and it's, you know, headlines and things, my heart goes out to them, obviously, especially because she is so young and beautiful and amazing at what she does and the way she embraces life and documents what's going on. Yeah, I thought Amy's brilliant. And I don't actually, I have to admit, I'm probably one of your viewers, I don't watch Strictly that much, but Amy, to me, has just been incredible.
It's very popular, wasn't it? Thank you very much there for joining us. That
pleasure, thank you for having me.
Celebrity interviewer and lifestyle editor, Suzanne Baum. Now, OK, we move on to food, obviously, because it's Christmas, and why wouldn't we? Raised potatoes, parsnips, Brussels sprouts, yeah, Brussels sprouts again, cranberry sauce, stuffing, lashings of gravy, and, of course, the main event, turkey. We put so much time and effort into making Christmas dinner, don't we? One of the biggest meals of the year, literally the biggest meal of the year. But do you ever go overboard on ingredients and end up with far too much food? Joining me now is Chef Barry Vera to share with us his top tips on what to do with your Christmas leftovers. Barry, thank you very much for joining us. Happy Christmas Eve, I think, isn't it? Well, OK, now, Christmas dinner, OK, there is always way too much food. So what are your top tips for these leftovers? What are we meant to do? And what can you eat, what's left over?
Well, I think you can actually... You can eat everything, really, and I think it's just sometimes being a little bit creative. I mean, we all go back to, you know, having cold cuts the next day. I mean, I'm a Yorkshire man, so it was cold cuts and bubble and squeak and pickles the next day. But I think a little bit more creativity and making it a bit more fun for the family. You know, quite often people say turkey is dry. I don't think it needs to be. I think when you're roasting your turkey, getting enough butter under the skin kind of maintains that moisture within, but also, and then obviously it helps then within a day or two afterwards what you're using it for. But there are varying things. I mean, at the restaurant here, we do a thing called a shooter sandwich, which is actually layers. It's a loaf of bread, and we use beef. But what we do is caramelize onions and saute mushrooms, and then grilled steak, and then we layer it all up with horseradish and mustard. You could do this with turkey, and then what we do is we pack it down, press it. It goes back to Edwardian times. And instead, maybe a little bit of mustard, but more maybe Dijon mustard and cranberry sauce, and press it. And then you slice it and you just fry it in a little bit of butter. And then you have this beautiful, rich sandwich. You could do a toad in the hole, but using chipolatas and Brussels sprouts, red onions, and obviously turkey as well, dicing up the turkey. My mum always used to make a really wonderful turkey soup, which was great. And in that we put pasta and fresh tomatoes and vegetables. And I suppose the list goes on. You know, you've got risotto. You know, where do you stop? But I think it's also about utilising everything and the vegetables, because we always make too many vegetables and too many potatoes. So why not make a pie, like a bit of a hodgepodge pie or something like that? So there are many ways you can do it.
What about the dreaded Brussels sprouts? I often get taken to task, I mean, as a kid by my mum and still now by my mum, many, many decades on, about Brussels sprouts. Never ate them then, not going to eat them now. And they're always left on the plate. So what's the best thing you can do with those? I mean, can you make them into soups and things like that?
I've never made a soup with a Brussels sprout, but I suppose you have cabbage soups and everything else possibly you could. I think, you know, the thing is, the main thing is not overcooking your Brussels sprouts. You know, we always remember the old days where they were boiled to death and it was more puree.
Yeah, you've met my mum.
You put your fork in. and you know, just cook them so there's still a little bit of crunch left in them, a little bit of texture, and then I finish them in with crumbled chestnuts and lardons of bacon or pancetta, and fry them in butter so you get some colour around the outside as well, and maybe some fresh herbs like maybe some chopped tarragon, some chopped parsley, and you know, they can be used quite well afterwards, and they can be regenerated as well, so you can re-saute them as well and still have enough texture in there as well that gives it a really lovely flavour. And adding the chestnut, the herbs and the bacon in there as well, and smoked bacon adds
You're making my mouth water already, Barry. So what about the stuff you can't really keep over though and eat sort of like, you know, for the next few days? Is there anything that should come with a warning about like eat it on the day and then it has to be, you know, put in the bin basically?
I think it's many families sometimes roast more than one joint. If you're bringing in something like pork, especially, you've got to be careful, especially when reheating pork, things like that. I mean, the rest of it all is just making sure that once you've used it, you've allowed it to cool, and you put it in the fridge and you store it properly. Cover it in the fridge as well, because obviously your fridge is running, the motor's running, so it's going to dry things out as well. So when you open the fridge door the next morning and you see it all dried, it doesn't look appetising, and most of the time it actually isn't. So you then end up wasting loads of food. And also sometimes when you're looking at it and you're about to start cooking it, do you need that much? Or do you keep it for a few more days? Because, you know, everybody's mostly off between now and probably, let's say, the 2nd or 3rd of January. There's plenty of food to have. Just, you know, pace it out.
Barry, thank you very much. That was Barry Vera, chef there. Thank you for joining us with some great tips for leftover Christmas dinner, because there will be some. We always do too much food, don't we? Right, OK, now loads more coming up on today's show. We've got all the best sports and showbiz news up next with Aidan McGee and Hayley Palmer. And you should see what Hayley's wearing. Don't go anywhere for that one. All of that and much more to come. I'm Dawn Neeson, and you are watching and listening to GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, I'm Greg Dewhurst and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. It is blustery out there, particularly across the northern half of the UK. Very strong gusts of 60, 70 miles an hour could lead to some travel disruption this Christmas Eve, and it's only replaced by further areas of low pressure as we move into Christmas Day. Plenty of isobars on the chart indicating it stays windy. For the rest of the evening time, blustery winds across much of the UK, particularly across northern Scotland, these tending to ease overnight. Further outbreaks of rain for southern parts of England and Wales. Clearer skies across Scotland will allow a touch of frost here, but for most of the cloud cover, it will be mild, 5 to 12 Celsius to start Christmas Day morning. We could see some brighter skies across central northern parts of England and also across northeast Scotland for a time, but then cloudy for most as we move through the day itself. Outbreaks of rain across England and Wales, which could be heavy at times, brisk winds too. Showery rain across Scotland, Northern Ireland, some of the rain falling as snow over the higher ground of Scotland, officially likely to be a white Christmas, but for the vast majority, mild and a wet Christmas, 12, 13 Celsius as a maximum temperature. The good news is, though, it'll be much drier and brighter on Boxing Day. Plenty of sunny spells, wintry showers across the northern half of Scotland on a brisk northerly breeze here, and temperatures back to where they should be for the time of year, but it doesn't last long as further wet and windy weather spreads in for Wednesday.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes and Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks, the admission's free.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christys Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christys Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News is Britain's news channel, and now you can support it. All you have to do is scan that QR code that's up on your screen right now, or you can go to gbnews.com/support and become a GB News member. You'll have fantastic benefits. We're also going to organise special events where you as GB News members can meet the presenters, the on-screen faces. Scan the QR code or go to gbnews.com/support. Thank you so much.
You with GB News, the headlines this hour. Flying debris and power cuts could disrupt last-minute getaway plans today, with weather forecasters warning of strong winds across roads. The Met Office saying wind gusts of up to 70 miles an hour could hit parts of Scotland and northern England. Rail services are disrupted as well from London. Main stations Euston, King's Cross and Paddington closed for essential engineering works. And millions due to be out on the roads today, with the AA saying drivers can expect lengthy drams as people travel to be with their families. And with that extra traffic on the roads, police are urging people to take great care. In Northumbria, police are appealing for witnesses after 2 teenagers died in Cramlington last night. And in Lancashire, there's been an arrest after a woman and a teenager died and a child was seriously injured in a car crash in Oldham. Police appealing for witnesses and dash cam footage to come forward. Now, the Royal Navy is deploying a warship to Guyana as tensions grow with neighbouring Venezuela. HMS Trent will take part in joint exercises in the region. The MOD confirming it's all part of the government's defence diplomacy strategy. The UK working with the South American nation to ensure its territorial integrity after a historical dispute with Venezuela over minerals and oil. And His Majesty the King delivering his second Christmas message from a room decorated with a living Christmas tree for the very first time. A photograph released ahead of tomorrow's broadcast. King Charles, of course, a long-term environmental campaigner. So, sustainable and natural ornaments hanging from his tree, we're told. And the tree itself will be replanted at a later date. Don't forget, of course, quick reminder for you, the King's speech will be live right here, GB News, Christmas Day, 3 o'clock. More on all those stories by heading to our website, gbnews.com.
Welcome back to GB News Christmas Eve on TV, online and on digital radio. Now, I love this bit. Lots of you have been sending us your emails, and this one is from Matt. He sent his Christmas tree in. Let's have a look at this one.
Well.
Actually, that's quite tasteful. Well, thank you, Matt. That is quite tasteful. And also, not just trees, but Santa's little helpers. This is from Steve. Let's have a look at Steve's. Oh, it's another Christmas decoration. Right, OK. Oh, no, it's got a Santa little helper there. It's actually got Santa in it. The real one. Right, and now we have a Santa little helper, and I think this is from Anna. Thank you. Oh, look.
Wow.
That's lovely. That's lovely. Thank you very much, Anna. And Ian has also got Santa's little helper. Oh, look at that. Oh, that's lovely. Thank you very much.
Nice dog.
And also one more from Davina, I think we have. Do it. Oh, that's very festive.
Aww.
The dogs always look sort of like quite happy as well, don't they? Love that. Right, thank you very much. Keep them coming in, though. You know where to send them. gbviews@gbnews.com. Now, more festive fun coming up. Joining me in the studio, and they're being very naughty already. I'm not sure Santa's going to stop off with either of these two. To go through all the biggest sports and showbiz story is sports broadcaster Aidan McGee and entertainment reporter Hayley Palmer. And look at what Hayley's wearing. I mean, how stunning does she look? She even has her own tinsel. I mean, ridiculous. Aidan, like every other man on the show so far, is really just not bothering.
Yeah,
No, that's not true. That's not true.
Well, go on, what's sparkly?
Well, nothing's sparkly, but I think I'll rely on my personality for that.
Well, that's not a lot.
Right, okay. Right, moving swiftly on. No, you have a wonderful personality, and it's a festive...
Well, you invited me on the show.
Yeah, well, true. Yeah, no, absolutely. Right, who wants to kick off? Let's kick off with you because you've made an effort, Hayley. To be honest,
Thank you so much. Actually, we want to kick off because we've got presents for you, Dawn.
Oh,
Dawn.
Yeah,
thank you very
Merry
much.
Christmas.
Hey, oh, thank you. What chocolate?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that looks.
And
like
more
a
Prosecco.
Yeah,
Marvellous.
more.
Thank you so
We were
much.
hoping you might share it out, but...
Yeah, we were.
This is why I have you two on the show, to be honest with you. Not
Just
for your
for the present.
expertise in any way. Right, you
Christmas,
talk
go on,
amongst
seriously.
yourself. I'm just going to eat chocolate and drink.
So what Dawn's doing that.
Thank you so much. Right, OK, let's start with you, Hayley.
Yes.
So...
I want to
this time of
talk
year, go on.
Christmas comedy because we all have a little comedy show.
That inspired by Aidan, obviously.
Not inspired by Aidan McGee. So I want to talk Gavin and Stacey.
Oh, I love Gavin and Stacey.
Because I was really hoping that they would bring another one out this year, especially with James Corden moving back to the UK. I was like, this is it, new Christmas special, but that's not the case. However, I do feel it should be a tradition where you just watch Gavin and Stacey in any case.
I must commit.
They remember that brilliant discussion they had about motorway service stations? That was right on my street, that, because I know loads about motorway service stations.
Why am I not surprised?
Well, no, because I used to do 60,000 miles a year.
Right.
In my car back in the day, but I used to specialise in going into and speak to the staff at all these service stations, give them a special fact about their service station. So, for example, you go to Cardiff Gate, that's the busiest service station in the country, and they love that, especially around Christmas time when it's a time to learn new things.
Those nights must really fly past.
Aidan really needs to get a life. Anyway, so Gavin and Stacey, check it out, and also Only Fools and Horses. Tonight they've got a Secrets and Scandals show where they're showing all the backstage gossip that happened, things behind the scenes, outtakes that you haven't seen before, and I think that's going to be awesome because I just love Only Fools and Horses. You can't beat these classics.
Who doesn't love Only Fools and Horses?
That's what I mean. You can't be part of our gang if you haven't.
No, exactly. The thing is, these are stuff that's been around for years.
Yeah.
Where's all the new stuff?
Yeah, but I don't think the new stuff can compete. I think the old stuff is classic.
They can't make comedy now the way they made it even 10 years ago. Never mind.
What, like funny?
I watched the... Well, yeah, true. Yeah, absolutely. I watched The Office earlier on today.
Oh, yeah.
I would say there were probably 30% of that script would not go to air today.
Yeah.
And it's a huge shame. It really is. But, you know, there we go.
Well, let's talk about your script now, then. What's happening in the
I don't have a
football?
script.
He doesn't have a script. He does all this tap dancing furiously through the sports headline. So, I mean...
Manchester United, let's look at them yesterday, I think.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I know. Were you there?
Yes.
You were? OK, great. Well, look, Man United, they've had a wretched season, haven't they? They're breaking all sorts of records now in terms of... I think they've lost more matches in a calendar year than they have since about 1930.
And meanwhile, every non-Man United fan gets out the world's smallest violin.
Well, yeah, they do. They do. I mean, look, but I cannot see Eric Ten Hag lasting too much into the new year. You're going to see... I think Ineos, when they go in there taking 25% of the company, that's all the sporting decisions as well. What do? They make a statement. I think their first statement
The
will
score
be...
was... I'm just not...
Sorry,
if you're a Man United fan watching, I'm sorry, but, yeah, just reminding you the score, it was sort of like 2-0.
To West Ham, yeah, exactly. And so I think they'll look to make a statement, and I think he just does not... The cut of his jib doesn't say Manchester United's a manager to me. I wasn't impressed last season when he even won a trophy and qualified for the top four, qualified for the Champions League. I think he's going to go in the new year. And also, can I mention David Moyes, your manager? He was absolutely castigated on... Was it Wednesday night, I think it was, when he went to Anfield, quarter-final of the Carabao Cup. They lost 5-1. They made lots of changes. But the quid pro quo is that by the weekend, you beat Manchester United, 3 points in the bag. people who say that he needs to go, I think are absolutely wrong. I think he's done a tremendous job, and he was vindicated yesterday by getting a convincing win against
We
United.
moan about managers so much, don't we, in football?
We do.
So what's going to be the biggest game to watch over? Because it's such a huge time for sport, isn't it? The biggest game to watch over the Christmas period.
I don't know what the biggest... I mean, I'm going to Millwall v QPR on Boxing Day, so that's going to be pretty big, I
said the biggest game.
Well, we got Chelsea. Chelsea are underway around about now.
Right.
Hugely controversial, the fact they're playing Wolves on Christmas Eve. That's the first Christmas Eve match.
Yeah, the Christmas Eve thing, I want to talk about this.
Yes.
Because I just can't get my head around... You know,
there was a protest next door at the Premier League headquarters 2 days ago. Chelsea fans saying about the fact they're playing on Christmas Eve for the first time in 28 years. There's been a Premier League match. I think 1995 was the last one. Leeds beating Manchester United by 3-1. So nothing changes there, I suppose. United losing.
I love that. We've just seen the hashtag Christmas Eve football can #get stuff.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, look, I mean, Chelsea were doing their bit as well. I mean, Premier League is the clubs. It's the clubs who made this decision. Don't forget, it's not the police, because I don't really know why there needs to be Christmas Eve football, because there are 364 days. Other days in the year that you can schedule matches for. But Chelsea are doing their bit. They're laying on free coaches to the supporters. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff. So they're going to get back in time. I would think it's just not an ideal time to travel. I mean, at least make it a local game. I think there's an argument now for Christmas games and New Year's games to just be local matches.
To be like, you know, like a local derby.
Yeah, they're always going to be outliers because the fixtures don't always marry up. But usually QPR play Millwall, for example, around about Christmas time because it's relatively local. You know, that minimises the travelling. And we've seen the state of the transport infrastructure as well in the last few years. Well, recently, I mean, it's an absolute mess again today. I was next door today. No trains out of Paddington. Anyone going home to the West Country is a bit stuck to the
You can't do it. You need to travel.
Yeah,
no, absolutely. Right, Hayley, coming back to you. I mean, Christmas films, obviously, as well as sport, are another biggie. If you're going to get sort of like slump on a settee and you're not watching football, you're probably going to be watching...
Yeah, that won't be me watching...
Or GBNews, obviously.
Obviously, GB News. The Wizard of Oz, we've got Bonnie and Clyde, Christmas Carol, Scrooge. I quite like the old-fashioned films.
Well, everybody does so, don't they?
Yeah.
Name a new one. That's the problem.
That's...
What about the holiday?
No,
it's a holiday new one.
Dawn and I were talking about this. I watched The Holiday last night. It is actually on today at 3:25. Dawn doesn't like The Holiday.
I know people who don't like The Holiday.
Don't you? I watched it last night. How can you not like it, Dawn?
I think it's good.
It's beautiful.
That house came up for sale about 3 years ago.
Did it?
It did. It came up for sale, and it was actually...
Where is it?
It's down in...
It's in Surrey.
It's down somewhere in Surrey. It's down near sort of Godalming, Guildford, that kind of neck of the woods. But it wasn't as expensive as I thought. You know why? Because it's actually very small. It's very, very small.
Yeah, you can see it in the movie. I'd much prefer the LA house, I've got to say.
Nice. yeah, no, absolutely.
But also there's a programme on tonight called Britain Gets Singing. Now, this is my cup of tea. Roman Kemp...
You can't sing, can you?
No, I'm tone deaf, but I like to watch other people. Are you, Dawn? We won't sing karaoke anytime soon. Yeah, I like to watch other people sing.
Yeah, right.
Of course I do. I like talent, which you haven't got. So it starts from Love Island, Corrie, Masked Singer and EastEnders, and they're all performing in groups. Now, I think this is good because you don't know sometimes that someone that's an actor in EastEnders can sing. Usually they have because they've trained to still be young. Exactly. But I think it's quite fascinating to let them entertain me.
Right, OK. Well, so football, sport, singing, everything here. Everything covered. Thank you so much, you two. That's Aidan and Hayley there. Yeah, looking absolutely gorgeous. Well, one of them is.
Thanks, Dawn. Cheers.
You're watching and listening to GB News Christmas Eve with me, Dawn Neeson. Lots more coming up on today's show. We'll be reviving the age-old traditions of ghost stories on Christmas Eve. Plus, we'll get the lowdown on Santa's whereabouts soon with our national reporter, Theo Chicomba. All of that and much, much more to come, so don't go too far, put the kettle on, and you're listening to GB News, Britain's news channel.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christys Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christys Tonight, 9 till 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamonn.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Have a great Saturday night with me, Leo Carson, this Saturday Night Showdown. It's a crazy world out there, so come and make fun of it with me, my panel of comedians, and a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about. This Saturday Night Showdown is your front row ticket to the clown show, every Saturday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox,
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
And welcome back to GB News Christmas Eve and Merry Christmas Britain with me, Dawn Newsome, on your TV, online and on digital radio. Now, when you think of spooky stories around the festive season, the ghosts of Christmas past, present and future from A Christmas Carol probably spring to mind. But traditionally, Christmas was the ultimate time to tell scary ghost stories. Historically, the 12 days of Christmas brought light to the darkness of midwinter months. In the light and safety that this brought, people would gather around their fires to tell stories of supernatural horror. This tradition has mostly died out, but I wanted to bring it back for today's show because I do like a good ghost story. So I'm really pleased to be joined by Richard Case, the Ghost Challenger, who has some chilling Christmas stories to share with us. Richard, thank you so much for coming on Christmas Eve.
Thank you, Dawn, for having me.
Why do we tell each other ghost stories at Christmas?
Well, it really goes back, I believe, to, you know, when you think of this time of year, we're actually midwinter, winter solstice. So you're going back in time. I mean, they had a thing, the ode of Beowulf. That's one of the oldest ghost stories ever probably composed in the 8th century.
That's like, yeah.
Yeah. And also you've got the hunt, the wild hunt, which is, they believe is someone like Odin that would lead the hunt, and the hunt would consist of all these spectral beings that were the undead. So I would say that probably brought in the kind of winter idea of the undead and made people think about that time of year for ghost stories, really.
OK, and obviously we mentioned there in the intro that the most famous Christmas ghost story ever is obviously Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol.
It is, yeah.
So what do you make of that? Do you think that is a good ghost story?
I think with Charles Dickens it was quite interesting because a lot of his ghost stories were a little bit like Oliver Twist as well, that he was trying to get over about the the problems that are around in the Victorian days. So when he was doing the story of Scrooge, he was telling the story about how bad people are, you know, how Scrooge didn't look after his nephew, you know, his uncle and everything. So there was always kind of like a moral side to the story with Scrooge and Charles Dickens. And in fact, it was in the Victorian days that really ghost stories took off.
They did like a good spooky story, didn't they? So what's the spook? If we want to indulge ourselves this Christmas, what's the spookiest ghost story that you've
Well,
heard?
I looked on a few that are true stories apparently around Christmas time.
Of course they're true. I know you might be slightly cynical, Richard, yourself.
I am a little bit, but there's one in Channel C Depot in Stratford, and it's called The Grinning Man, apparently. And it's a former British Rail employee who's reported to seeing a tall man wearing a cape and top hat standing by a hangar. He has a terrible grin and a mouthful of white teeth. So, and he immediately vanishes as when people turn up. But actually, Sandringham House, the royal family, they've had their stories of ghosts there as well at Christmas time.
That's where Kate and William normally spend Christmas, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and apparently Christmas cards, not ghost cards, Christmas cards, Christmas decorations, they've been moved, and one of the servants actually went down to get a bottle of wine at Christmas time, and when he went downstairs, he saw the apparition of a former servant there, and he ran a mile. So apparently,
and this was obviously before he'd drunk the wine.
Before he drank the wine. And the story is that Her Majesty the Queen did do a service there to kind of get rid of any...
the Queen actually did like an exorcism?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's in a book by one of the royal you know, people that knew what happened, and apparently she did that. So
wow. Have you ever personally experienced anything really spooky at Christmas?
I have, yeah. I mean, I've been left alone in some very strange places, and I can remember being left alone in Skirrid Inn, which is in Wales. And what's creepy about that place is they've got this mannequin, so you're walking past it, and if you're left alone there, you know, it's windy outside, the rain, everything's tapping on the window, and you're walking past this mannequin thinking the eyes are following you. And I can remember being in there, and apparently the hangman's supposed to come from upstairs, because what they got is a hangman's noose that goes over the stairs, because they used to hang people for sheep stealing and things like that years ago. And apparently he's supposed to haunt the place. And that particular evening, I can remember being there, and I still to this day think it may have been just the wind and the rain on hindsight, but it was like something was coming up the steps towards me and I had to stop, so that was quite cool.
Oh, that is spooky. I've actually gone a bit cold there. Ooh, thank you very much. And is there a particularly good ghost story on TV that we need to watch out for?
I think there's something on at the moment. I don't know what's on at the moment. I would probably stick to a good Frankenstein horror story. That's what I always recommend.
You're a man after my own heart. Richard Case, thank you so much for joining us for some lovely spooky stories. Now, Father Christmas is on the move. Well, he would be a bit of a wriggle. I don't think he's got the whole world to get through. He's now making his way from the North Pole across the world to deliver presents all throughout Christmas Eve and night. With more on this is our reporter, Theo Chakomba. Theo, thank you very much for joining us. So, where is Santa? What's the latest on his whereabouts?
Yes, well, good morning, good afternoon to you, actually. So Santa is on the move. He started Lapland just a couple of hours ago now, and he's making his way towards Russia at the moment. He's been through Australasia, New Zealand, in that area as well. Over 500 million presents have already been delivered. So normally, NORAD tracks what's happening in North American airspace throughout the year, but just for today, everyone has their eyes on where Santa is today. So what normally happens, Santa will go and deliver presents for young children between the hours of 9 p.m. and midnight. And if you happen to be awake during that time, he's sadly going to go to another house and then return back to yours. But Christmas Day is tomorrow. Everybody looking forward to that. We've been seeing the last few days, people looking forward and counting down, but the day is almost here. But at the moment, we have been seeing that tracker, as we're seeing on the screen at the moment, that he's heading towards Russia. So some of you already got your presents already if you're in a different part of the world. But if you haven't yet, he is certainly making his way, and we're keeping an eye on that throughout the afternoon.
Thank you very much, Theo. Wow, that is our... I could watch that all day. I'm fascinated by maps. It's like, which part of the world is he over now? I'm not quite sure it's coming to your house. You're not on the good list. No, you're not on the good list. Right, thank you very much, Theo. You're watching and listening to GB News Saturday with me, Dawn Newsroom. Lots more festive fun coming up on today's show. You're watching and listening to GB News, so don't go anywhere. Britain's news channel is right after your cup of tea you're making right now. I know. See you soon.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Greg Dewhurst and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. It is blustery out there, particularly across the northern half of the UK. Very strong gusts of 60, 70 miles an hour could lead to some travel disruption this Christmas Eve, and it's only replaced by further areas of low pressure as we move into Christmas Day. Plenty of isobars on the chart indicating it stays windy. For the rest of the evening time, blustery winds across much of the UK, particularly across northern Scotland, these tending to ease overnight. Further outbreaks of rain for southern parts of England and Wales. Clearer skies across Scotland will allow a touch of frost here, but for most of the cloud cover, it will be mild, 5 to 12 Celsius to start Christmas Day morning. We could see some brighter skies across central northern parts of England and also across northeast Scotland for a time, but then cloudy for most as we move through the day itself. Outbreaks of rain across England and Wales, which could be heavy at times, brisk winds too. Showery rain across Scotland, Northern Ireland, some of the rain falling as snow over the higher ground of Scotland, officially likely to be a white Christmas, but for the vast majority, mild and a wet Christmas, 12, 13 Celsius as a maximum temperature. The good news is, though, it'll be much drier and brighter on Boxing Day. Plenty of sunny spells, wintry showers across the northern half of Scotland on a brisk northerly breeze here, and temperatures back to where they should be for the time of year, but it doesn't last long as further wet and windy weather spreads in for Wednesday.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks, the admission's free.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christys Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christys Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes and Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Merry Christmas, Britain. I'm Dawn Newsroom, and for the next 2 hours, I'm keeping you company on TV, online, and on digital radio. I'll keep you up to date on the stories that really matter to you. And coming up this hour, we'll be discussing the do's and don'ts around the Christmas table this year. Ouch. As we get a lesson in Christmas etiquette. Oh, God, I'm going to fail, I know. Now, love them or hate them, another staple around the Christmas table are crackers. These things. But do you ever bother to read the jokes inside? We'll be talking more on this.
Last Christmas, I gave you my heart, but the very next day, you gave it away. This year, to save me from tears, I'll give it to someone special, special.
Sorry, sing along there. And of course, we'll be talking about the Christmas #1. After 3 decades, Wham has finally made it. But what's your favourite Christmas song? So do get in touch. Send me your thoughts on gbviews@gbnews.com or message me on our socials. Simple, @GBNews. But first...
Dawn, thank you. Well, the top story today, weather forecasters are warning of strong winds today with flying debris and maybe even power cuts, disrupting last-minute Christmas getaways. The Met Office says gusts of wind of up to 70 miles an hour are going to be blowing across Scotland and northern parts of Britain. Some rail services delayed as well. Major London stations closed today, including Euston, King's Cross and Paddington, all for essential engineering works. Millions will be on the roads today. The AA says drivers can expect lengthy traffic jams as people travel to be with their families. Travel editor Lisa Mino advises careful planning.
Services are going to be finishing much earlier than usual. Northern trains, again, having problems due to number of staff availability, so lots of trains being cancelled there. Anyone who's looking to take a train today, please check before you leave the house because things are not looking 100% great. On the roads, it's going to be very busy. 21 million trips are being taken over this weekend as people head home for Christmas. And we've got that lunch crunch that should be the one that you're trying to avoid. So between the hours of 12 and 2, that's where motoring organisations say the roads are going to be at their busiest.
And with that extra traffic on the roads, particularly around lunchtime, police urging people to take much greater care with their driving. In Northumbria today, police are appealing for witnesses after 2 teenagers lost their lives in Cramlington. And in Lancashire, there's been an arrest after a woman and a teenager died there and a child seriously hurt in a car crash in Oldham. Police in both instances are asking for witnesses or anyone with dash cam footage to come forward. Now, the Prime Minister has urged people to focus on the promise of a brighter future in his address to the nation today. Rishi Sunak says Christmas is a time of hope, but it is important to remember this Christmas Eve those who are facing difficulties. He thanked NHS staff, police and the armed forces for sacrificing time away from their families in the service of others. And his message coming after the latest round of strikes by junior doctors in England ended yesterday. The longest walkout in NHS history, though, is due to begin on the 3rd of January.
Christmas is a time of peace, joy, compassion, a time of hope and a promise of a better world. And today, as we look ahead, let's keep that promise of a brighter future burning into the new year. Wherever you are, and whatever you are doing for the festivities, I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Rishi Sunak, well, in his annual Christmas message, the Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, said the story of Jesus Christ was a reminder that in dark times, hope and love are always worth advocating for. Sir Keir Starmer saying it's a time to rejoice in Jesus' birth and rekindle bonds as families and friends shared joy. He also thanked the NHS, as well as Royal Mail workers and the military for their hard work over the festive period, and particularly singled out praise for the generosity of churches and charities.
As communities across Britain gather together for a period of faith and festivities, I want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas. Throughout the Christmas period, we see the bonds of kinship rekindled as families and friends share in the joy, the hope and the optimism that Christmas provides.
Well, in other news today, the Home Secretary has reiterated that the government is working as quickly as possible to stop small boat crossings. Speaking on a visit to Bedfordshire Police Station, James Cleverly said the UK had reduced the number of illegal migrants reaching Britain by a third at a time when other European nations were seeing an increase in numbers.
I'm not going to aim for an arbitrary point in time. We're working on this as quickly as possible. I visited the team of Border Force officials at Luton Airport earlier who are returning people to their countries of origins, the people who should not be here, the people who have come here illegally. We are sending them home. We intend to make sure we get the Rwanda legislation through as quickly as possible, make sure we have that deterrent and continue working with the international partners with whom we have fantastic relationships.
Cleverly, who's come in for some criticism today and had to apologise for joking about putting a rape drug in his wife's drink just hours after a government plan was announced to crack down on drink spiking. James Cleverly reportedly joked he puts a little bit of Rohypnol in his wife's drink every night so she doesn't realise there are better men out there. Well, the comments were said to have been made privately at a Downing Street reception. That's normally off the record, but the Sunday Mirror has broken convention and chosen to report it. The Royal Navy is deploying a warship to Guyana as tensions grow with neighbouring Venezuela. HMS Trent will take part in joint exercises while there. The MOD confirming it is part of the government's defence diplomacy strategy. The UK working alongside the South American nation to ensure its territorial integrity after a historical dispute with Venezuela bubbled up again over minerals and oil. His Majesty the King will be delivering his second Christmas message tomorrow from a room decorated with a living Christmas tree for the very first time. A photograph of the tree, if you're watching on television, you can see has been released ahead of that broadcast tomorrow. King Charles, of course, a long-term environmental campaigner, so sustainable and natural ornaments, we're told, hanging from his Christmas tree, which itself will be replanted at a later date. And a reminder, you can see the King's speech live right here, GB News, 3 o'clock tomorrow, Christmas Day. Let's bring you some live pictures now from NORAD. Father Christmas, we understand, still on the move. His journey delivering presents to children around the world well underway. He left Antarctica about half an hour ago. He's on his way to New Zealand now, dropping those presents across Russia, actually. He's making good progress, isn't he? Live pictures coming to us from the North American Aerospace Defence Command, monitoring Santa's movements, of course, as it does for us every year, and as it has done since 1955, when one curious child wanted to know where Santa was and was told by NORAD, who, of course, protect Santa's journey across the world as he safely delivers those presents to the children that are on the nice list. Are you? This is GB News across the UK on TV, in your car, on digital radio and on your smart speaker by saying play GB News. This is Britain's news channel.
Thank you very much, Polly. Right, let's get straight into today's topic, shall we? Now, from falls when putting up the Christmas lights to burning yourself on the oven trying to get out the turkey, injuries can easily happen around the Christmas season. According to ROSPA, the Royal Society for Prevention of Accidents, around 80,000 people attend A&E each year after having accidents whilst doing festive tasks. I've got so many stories about what's gone horribly wrong here. But I've also got other people who can talk about their horrible accidents as well. With me now to discuss this is my panel of the broadcaster Esther Stanhope and former Labour advisor Matthew Larser. Thank you very much for joining me on Christmas Eve. Both looking very healthy.
So, yeah, I've got to tell you, just before we go on, I haven't got sparkles, but Martin has rung in to say I've got to undo my top button. Oh. Because he doesn't like it without a tie, so that's for Martin.
Right, OK. Martin, you're a strange man. But no, that looks much more
Christmassy, festive, relaxed.
Festive? Yes. Any case, I was fascinated by this story. Right, 80,000 people going to A&E for Christmas-related accidents. Right, that is 350 people each year injured by fairy lights alone.
I can imagine. Yeah, fairy lights are kind of quite scary, especially a lot of people I think have very old fairy lights, don't they? Which have certainly not been pat tested, as things have to be in offices, etc. now. You know, the fairy lights are kind of traditional. We've had them since our kids were little, etc. So then they don't realise that they're about 40 years out of date and that the wiring may be a bit dodgy.
I think it's about getting on a ladder because you go in.
Yes,
reach
totally.
Here, reach there, and our Christmas tree nearly fell on top of me this year because it's extra big. I don't know why we got such a big Christmas tree. You couldn't get the fairy lights around the tree, so we had a ladder here. We all had to start.
It's very hard. What do you put the ladder up against? Exactly.
Well, and a lot of people just pull up a chair. Let's do it that way. Well, evidently, 2.6 million people have fallen off chairs standing up to do the Christmas decor. I mean, it's like dangerous out there, people. Be careful. Those fairy lights are dangerous. Chairs are dangerous. So, I mean, what's the worst? I mean, the worst one for me is, you know, the old-fashioned glass baubles you
yes.
get?
Oh.
Most of them are plastic now, aren't they?
Yes.
The old-fashioned glass baubles you used to get from Woolworths. Remember Woolworths? You've got to be old. And they'd regularly fall off the tree, mainly because we're little kids running around. Yeah. And they'd shatter. Now they're all shatterproof and health and safety. And you're running around without slippers on.
Ouch.
It is.
That's my huge fear. Yeah, that's my huge fear is actually standing in glass.
In Home Alone, he puts the Christmas decoration, the broken Christmas decorations.
Oh, yeah, yes.
So the robbers have got no feet.
Like people put them on the top of walls outside, don't they? But glass shards. Doing it with those old-fashioned Christmas baubles is a good idea for Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah, absolutely. Not so good for normal kids. So what's the worst thing that's ever happened to you two?
Well, I always burn myself on the oven every single Christmas, and I nearly always burn my tongue because I've tasted something
absolutely,
like
that's always.
It's a pig in a blanket or a bit of gravy.
Yes. Pigs in blankets are absolutely deadly because it's the molten cheese, isn't it?
Or the sausage.
Or the sausage, but, you know, you've got various varieties of things wrapped that you just can't get your hands off. When you need to pause, not be gluttonous, and make sure that they are of a sufficiently moderate temperature.
Yes.
Because it then spoils the rest of the Christmas day, doesn't it, when you've nicked the pigs in blanket before you've eaten anything straight off. Yeah. And then you've got a sore mouth for the rest of the day.
I've got to say, though, a funny story. So, you know, my daughter was born on Christmas Day, so I was in labour on Christmas Eve, and the only way that my other half could get into the hospital, Adam could only get into the hospital via A&E. And literally, he said it was the busiest, the A&E, it was Christmas Eve.
Because that's the only door that's open, isn't it, basically, on Christmas Day?
So he was running through A&E, and literally, he said people had bottles in their heads. There were people with, you know, fallen over. They were drunk. There were just drunken people singing with bits of shard stuck in their limbs.
Yeah, and especially
as he came to the labour ward.
This week, of course, GPs are warning, you know, don't go to your GP all week. So never mind just Christmas Day itself. People need to take a bit of extra care because with the strike as well, there's going to be less coverage than usual.
This is the thing. I mean, the other big issue really, and this is probably one that I might have under is champagne corks.
Oh!
It's the one thing I'm good at, actually. I'm the most impractical, klutzy person
That's because you have
ever.
lots of practice, Matthew.
Oh.
But what, they go in your face? They go in your eye?
Yeah.
Ow.
Yeah,
It's the only thing I can do. Like, I'm really, really like Mr. Klutz, but I'm actually very good at champagne.
What is
corks.
your tip then, right?
It's just as twist and as keep it all as low key as possible. You know, don't try and be theatrical.
Right. Okay. And do you have a tea towel over it?
I don't need to do.
Oh, that's a good idea though. Tea towel.
Yeah, because then it's
best practice. Yeah.
Going off.
But just very gentle and just keep a firm grip and very gentle.
Right. Okay. My other favourite statistic was our. I love this. 600,000 people have burnt themselves roasting chestnuts.
I'm amazed 600,000 people still roast chestnuts.
Well, that's my point. It's like, really?
At home. It's a kind of thing,
do they do it on the fire? Well, in the oven?
That was the only thing. They didn't explain
But
it.
mate, you don't see roasted chestnut sellers on the street like we did when we was young, did we?
When we was young, back in 1872.
But it was a real London thing, roasted chestnuts in the street.
Yeah, they just don't do them.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't roasted chestnuts explode.
Do they?
I think they do.
Oh, my God.
Don't stop the chestnuts.
Stop the chestnuts. Stop the fairy lights. Be careful of the baubles.
Just be Scrooge and then you'll stay safe.
Don't stand on a chair.
Right, on that happy note then.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you're going to open a bottle of champagne, invite Matthew around. Obviously, he's the expert. Now, we're moving on. Christmas is one of the most celebrated events of the year, and we have many traditions and customs. But how do we do it properly? And what is the correct routine for Christmas Day? Here to help answer all these etiquette questions is consultant Laura Windsor. Laura, thank you very much for joining us this Christmas Eve. Happy Christmas Eve to you. Now, I'm very confused about the right way to do Christmas Day. I mean, do you open your presents in the morning or after lunch? So how should we do it properly?
Well, I think the most important thing is the golden rule. Treat people as you would like to be treated yourself. So it doesn't really matter how you do things. What is important is that everybody has to feel comfortable and everyone has to be merry. And that means no overindulging, you know, on the vino. There we are. A glass there.
Yeah, mine's slightly empty by now. Sorry. So, sort of like, you know, posh people, like the royal family, tend to open their presents after lunch. So is that really the correct way if we go back and look at the traditional Christmas?
Well, I think that normally people would do them in the morning when they get up. That is the traditional way. Of course, the royal family have their own traditions. It doesn't mean that we follow those. Although, at the same time, most of our manners were born from the royalty. We copied them. But the fact that we haven't copied them just shows that I think everyone should open their presents whenever they want. And when I was a little girl, it was in the morning.
Well, you try and stop kids actually opening presents in the morning. If you're not sort of standing at the bottom of your parents' beds at 4 o'clock in the morning, going, "Oh, come on, then wake up." And the other big problem I have is how to dress on Christmas Day. I always have this fantasy of wafting around, you know, like I'm looking now, like dressed for work, sparkles and gorgeous and glamorous. But in the end, I just end up wearing my pyjamas, basically. Is it necessary to dress up?
Well, again, it's all about respecting others and making people feel comfortable. If everybody in the family is fine with wearing pyjamas, why not? But if someone wants the family to look a little more smart, the best thing to do is to actually tell the family a dress code in some way. So you'd say smart casual or pyjama. It's a pyjama party. So it's up to the family itself.
That's sensible, actually, yeah. And what about the time to eat lunch? Now, we always eat our lunch quite late, but mostly because, well, we just don't be bothered to cook it in time, to be honest with you. So, is it at 1 o'clock or is it at 3 o'clock, or what's the traditional time to eat your Christmas dinner?
About from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Right, so you finish in time for the King's speech, obviously.
Exactly, that's very important. Yes, or while he's talking, you can be on your pudding, but it's usually around 2.
OK, which will be obviously live on GBNews for anyone that's going to be watching it. And what's the worst etiquette sin you can commit on Christmas Day? I mean, obviously the big problem some of us might have is drinking too much alcohol. Is that a no-no?
Well, overindulgence in general is sort of frowned upon, but I guess the alcohol is the worst because you can offend people, you can make people feel uncomfortable. And sometimes when we drink a lot, we don't realize what we're saying and how it's actually been said. So try not to offend the family.
And Laura, one final question. You know, everyone plays games on Christmas Day. Is it ever okay?
Yeah.
Is it ever okay to refuse Monopoly? Because you know you're still going to be playing it in the new year. It goes on that long.
What's wrong with playing Monopoly?
It goes on. It goes on forever. Is it okay to say, I'm not going to play charades or Monopoly this Christmas, OK?
Absolutely. You can do what you want, just so long as everybody is in agreement and everyone is happy. That's what Christmas is about, thinking about others and making others feel comfortable.
Brilliant. That's great. Thank you very much for joining. That's Laura Windsor, who is an etiquette expert there. Merry Christmas to you, Laura. Thank you very much. Now, back to you all at home. I asked earlier to send in pictures of your Christmas trees and Santa's little helpers. And they've been coming through thick and fast. I love these. Keep them coming in. So let's have a look, shall we? Now, Sonam has sent her tree with GBNews in the background. I love that. That's a guaranteed way to get on here, by the way. Beautiful, beautiful tree as well, by the way. And Christine, I think we're coming to you now. Your lovely tree. Oh, look at that. That's a very lovely hallway as well, Christine, as well. That looks very... And remarkably clean and tidy for this time of year. Meanwhile, Patrick, you've sent a picture of your beautiful dog. Oh, look, all festive, going out for one of those Christmas Day walks, isn't it? And Spencer and Fiona have wished GBNews a very Merry Christmas and sent a picture of their beautiful dogs too. Oh, look. Oh, my God, they look a handful. Oh, that big one, look at that. Wow, that's lovely. Right, OK, thank you so much. Right, from putting up Christmas lights and decoration trees, having turkey and cranberry sauce for your roast dinner, we have many different Christmas traditions. But have you ever wondered where they all actually come from? Martin Whittock is a historian and licensed lay minister for the Church of England, who will hopefully be able to explain where some of our traditions started and why we should still continue doing them. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon, Martin. Now, where do we start? I mean, presents, seem to be the big thing on Christmas Day. Why do we give one another presents at Christmas?
Well, that's a very good question. I mean, in many ways, it's sort of rooted in the concept that Jesus is the gift of God to the world, God's greatest gift mirrored in our gifts. But what's interesting is this, that up until perhaps the 17th, 18th century, gifts were always given at New Year. So what we need to remember is at the moment, we're in the season of Advent, when we're preparing for Christmas. Nowadays, for us, Christmas is the culmination of the event, but right through the Middle Ages into the early modern period, Advent, the month beforehand, is the preparation time. Then it all starts on Christmas Day and it runs for the 12 days of Christmas. People will remember from songs and things. And then it culminates in Epiphany when the wise men gave their gifts to Jesus. Well, throughout the Middle Ages, and in fact, particularly at the Tudor court, had you been at the court of Henry VIII and you'd given Henry VIII a gift on Christmas Day, he'd have wondered what your problem was, because gifts were given on New Year's Day in the run-up to Epiphany. So it's really only in the 19th century, as late as that gift giving shifted to Christmas Day itself. Quite remarkable, isn't it? And nowadays it's completely inextricably linked with Christmas Day, but that is a relatively recent shift in the seasonal calendar.
That's amazing. So, I mean, now people watch me going, oh, right, I can get presents on New Year's Eve as well. Thank you very much for that. And the other bigger is trees, Christmas trees. We've just been discussing how dangerous fairy lights and baubles can actually be. Why do we decorate our homes with Christmas trees?
Well, we know throughout the Middle Ages from church wardens' accounts that people were bringing greenery into churches to decorate them, and also into homes as well. Right through the Middle Ages into the 17th and 18th century as well, this happens as well. That dies off a little bit towards the end of the 18th century. And the idea is greenery at a time of winter, life at a time of death, the symbolism there of light and greenery at this time, and the concept that God's love comes into the world to transform us. So it has kind of like, has a theological reason for it, as well as a cheering you up time. But the trees are relatively late. There wasn't a tradition in this country of putting up Christmas trees until the 19th century. We first record them in the Manchester area in 1820s, 1830s, where there were a significant number of German immigrants. And then in the 1840s, Albert, the wife of Queen Victoria, in 1841, I believe, that's the first year they have this celebration of Victorian domesticity around a Christmas tree. So a lot happens in the 1840s because Christmas had a bit of a problem with the Industrial Revolution. The Factory Act of 1833 said that you could only have one day off work at Christmas, and that was Christmas Day. Well, as you can imagine, that did for the 12 days of Christmas pretty seriously. And so by the 30s and 40s, people begin to wonder if Christmas had a future. And then there was a fight back in the 1840s. So it's encouraged by Albert. The tree then appears. We have the first Christmas card sent in 1843, although they don't become really popular till the 1860s and 1870s. And in 1843, also, Dickens publishes A Christmas Carol. And he was part of this pushback saying, Christmas is great, it's in decline, we've got to fight back. So it's from the middle years of the 19th century that this ancient ceremony of Christmas finally really hits the mainstream. Stockings appear from the 1850s as well. That's a German tradition. We have Father Christmas from the 17th century. He's hooded, but he's dressed in green. He appears in his classic red and white, perhaps in the 1860s, 1870s, as an import from America, where he's been taken to New York by Dutch settlers who celebrate St. Nicholas. Santa Claus is Nicholas. So there's this composite Christmas that gets put together at the end of the 19th century. Christmas itself is ancient, but lots of the traditions happen. The first collections of carols start being put together in the 1870s. A carol is literally a song that accompanies a dance. It doesn't have to have anything to do with Christmas at all, but there's an encouragement of hymn singing as well. First big collections of carols in the 1870s. So lots of things that we now think have gone on for centuries about Christmas are actually about 150 years old, although they've been added to an event which has been celebrated right through the Middle Ages, literally for hundreds and hundreds of years. But the customs are often not as old as we think they are.
That's amazing. And what about the final question? Because I could talk to you all day on this, it's fascinating. The feasting, we've already discussed Christmas dinner and, you know, what you can do with leftovers, because we all always end up eating too much. The whole idea of feasting and drinking around Christmas, what's the background to that one?
The medieval 12 days of Christmas were all about celebration at the time of winter. You couldn't do an awful lot in the agricultural year. It was wet and windy and damp and muddy. So it was a time to take off work from that. So there was a celebration of the 12 days of Christmas, culminating on January the 6th, Epiphany. And that was really frowned upon by Puritans. So in the 17th century, Christmas was banned between 1655 and 1660 because there was far too much jollity going on, far too much drunkenness, far too much people going around masked, mumming they called it. Some called themselves hogglers, and it seemed to be associated with inappropriate behaviour on the streets. So when it then comes back at the end of the 19th century, the feasting then is celebrated, but in a family home way, in a more familial way, a more disciplined way. Cheap turkeys are starting to arrive from America. They replace the rather fatty, not terribly lot of meat on it goose. So by the end of the 19th century, the turkeys come back in again. And basically, it's become a more of a domestic scene in a rather more measured way to replace what was sometimes some pretty boisterous activities during the 12 days of Christmas, which had got the Puritans very, very upset in the 17th century. But it's been part of it all along.
Thank you very much. That's Martin Whittett, the historian and licensed lay minister for the Church of England, with all the Christmas traditions. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon, and Merry Christmas to you. Right, you're watching and listening to Merry Christmas Britain with me, Dawn Neeson. Lots more coming up on today's show, including some of the best Christmas cracker jokes. Is there such a thing? But first, let's take a look at what the weather's doing.
Hello there, I'm Greg Dewhurst and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. It is blustery out there, particularly across the northern half of the UK. Very strong gusts of 60, 70 miles an hour could lead to some travel disruption this Christmas Eve, and it's only replaced by further areas of low pressure as we move into Christmas Day. Plenty of isobars on the chart indicating it stays windy. For the rest of the evening time, blustery winds across much of the UK, particularly across northern Scotland, these tending to ease overnight. Further outbreaks outbreaks of rain for southern parts of England and Wales. Clearer skies across Scotland will allow a touch of frost here, but for most of the cloud cover, it will be mild, 5 to 12 Celsius to start Christmas Day morning. We could see some brighter skies across central northern parts of England and also across northeast Scotland for a time, but then cloudy for most as we move through the day itself. Outbreaks of rain across England and Wales, which could be heavy at times, brisk winds too. Showery rain across Scotland, Northern Ireland, some of the rain falling as snow over the higher ground of Scotland, officially likely to be a white Christmas, but for the vast majority, mild and a wet Christmas, 12, 13 Celsius as a maximum temperature. The good news is, though, it'll be much drier and brighter on Boxing Day. Plenty of sunny spells, wintry showers across the northern half of Scotland on a brisk northerly breeze here, and temperatures back to where they should be for the time of year, but it doesn't last long as further wet and windy weather spreads in for Wednesday.
GB News is Britain's news channel, and now you can support it. All you have to do is scan that QR code that's up on your screen right now, or you can go to gbnews.com/support and become a GB News member. You'll have fantastic benefits. We're also going to organise special events where you as GB News members can meet the presenters, the on-screen faces. Scan the QR code or go to gbnews.com/support. Thank you so much.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christys Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christys Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
delicious.
mental?
Put in your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa!
Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamonn.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6 is Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes and Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Have a great Saturday night with me, Leo Curse, on the Saturday Night Showdown. It's a crazy world out there, so come and make fun of it with me, my panel of comedians, and a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about. This Saturday Night Showdown is your front row ticket to the clown show, every Saturday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The headlines from the GB Newsroom. Weather forecasters a warning of strong winds sending flying debris across roads and the threat of some power cuts today, that disrupting last-minute Christmas getaway plans for families. The Met Office saying wind gusts may hit Scotland at up to 70 miles an hour. Northern England is affected, as well as the Midlands as well. And in terms of rail travel, major London rail terminuses are closed completely today, including Euston, King's Cross and Paddington, all having essential engineering works done there. Millions, though, on the roads today, with the AA saying drivers can expect severe congestion. And as many people are on the roads, police are urging people to take great care. In Northumbria, police are appealing for witnesses after 2 teenagers died in a 3-collision car crash in Cramlington last night. And in Lancashire, there was an arrest after a woman and a teenager died. And a child was seriously hurt in a car crash in Oldham. In both instances, police appealing for witnesses or anyone with dash cam footage. Now, the Royal Navy is deploying a warship to Guyana as tensions grow with neighbouring Venezuela. In South America, the HMS Trent taking part in joint exercises in the region, with the Ministry of Defence confirming it is part of the government's defence diplomacy strategy. The UK working with the South American nation to ensure its territorial integrity, it says, after a historical dispute with Venezuela over minerals and oil. And His Majesty the King delivering his second Christmas message tomorrow from a room decorated with a living Christmas tree for the first time. King Charles, a committed environmental campaigner, so we understand sustainable and natural ornaments hanging from the royal tree, which itself will be replanted at a later date. A reminder that King's message right here, GB News, tomorrow, Christmas Day at 3 o'clock. Don't miss it. More on all those stories by heading to our website. In the meantime, gbnews.com.
Welcome back to GB News, our Saturday with me, Dawn Neeson. Excuse me, I'm having a major coughing fit. On your TV, online and on digital radio. Now, apart from the food, a staple on the Christmas dinner table is, of course, crackers. These things. And water, obviously. Excuse me. Now.
We can pull ours if you want.
Sorry about that. They're pulling each other over there. Right, now, if you are the winner after pulling the cracker, not only do you get a lovely paper hat and present, but you also get the joy of reading out a really cheesy Christmas joke, don't you? Now, joining me now is comedian Diane Spencer to discuss all things Christmas cracker jokes and looking very festive there. Thank you very much for joining us, Diane. Now, excuse me if my voice goes, you might have to tell Christmas jokes for the next 10 minutes. So what is it with Christmas jokes? And Diane, why are they so awful?
No, I mean, you say they're awful, but they're such a magical tradition. I mean, Christmas cracker jokes, they have several elements to them. They need to be quick, because obviously you don't want some kind of diatribe inside your cracker. They can be told by anyone. And isn't that part of the magic? Because you just said that, yes, we sit round the table and it's like a question and an answer. And when you come to a Christmas cracker, a laugh rarely happens. A groan, beautiful. That is exactly what you kind of want to go for, because a Christmas cracker joke, it really relies on puns and wordplay. So you can either have something that sounds like something else, or perhaps you can add a word on. And I've set up a little sort of a Christmas punny quiz for you, Dawn, because I thought you'd be up for this. So it has to have a Christmas element.
Now you're making me very nervous.
Will help. You've got this, Dawn. I've got so much faith in you.
Go on.
Okay. So, well, this is in case any of our viewers want to start writing their own Christmas crackers. I know that it's kind of the fashion to make your own stuff and have everything homemade, so you've got to write the jokes if you're going to make the crackers, right? So we're going to start with the North Pole. That's kind of our Christmas thing that we want to include.
Right.
So my question to you, Dawn. What is the animal that ruins Santa's garden?
I don't know, Diana. What is the animal that ruins Santa's garden?
The North Mole!
Oh, my God. Okay, yeah, I've asked for this, haven't I? Right, okay, go on. Yep.
No, you're good. Okay, so running on that, right? So we've started with the North Pole, and that was like a sound alike. Now we're going to do one where we're going to add a word. Okay, so it's still with the North Pole. So, what is Santa's favourite sporting event?
Pole vote.
Pole vaulting. Pole
vault.
The North Pole vault.
Oh. Yeah, she was telling us how she did it.
Thankfully, I have my wonderful panel here, Esther and Matthew, helping me out on this one. Esther got that one. She's brilliant. Yeah, go on. Okay, is there more to come of this, Diane?
A little bit.
We're on a roll.
Well, when you're making your own Christmas crackers, something you can do is personalise them. Now, Dawn, your name is, it's glorious. It's as glorious as the sunrise. Because you have Dawn, but also your surname, Newsroom. Beautiful word to work with. So let's start with something a bit feisty, because I know you're a little bit feisty. So, why did the moany snowflakes limp out of GB News?
I don't know, Diane. Go on.
Because Dawn needs them.
Oh my God! He's terrible.
And all too plausible.
And I got one more.
Helping Matthew here.
I've got one more. One more. Ready?
Go on.
Why should they open the champagne at GB News?
Oh, because Dawn needs some?
Yes, she does!
Yeah, obviously for medicinal reasons, if Mum's watching, because it's good for my cough, Mum, honestly. Thank you very much. Okay, that's brilliant, Diane. So can you do a quick one for Matthew Larser off the top of your head then, our panellist?
So Matthew could be shortened to Matt. And what's his surname, plee?
Larser.
It's not an easy one.
Larser. Do we need to get more drinks at GB News? Yes, we do, because Matthew likes a Larser.
Okay, fine.
It's not easy. It's not easy.
I think that is brilliant. Thank you, Diane, and thank you so much for joining Thank you so much for joining us today, and a very Merry Christmas to you. That was great fun. Thank you very much. And thank you, yous too, as well. Right, and Matt, right, back to you at home now. I've got a few more of your pictures of your gorgeous living room, so please do keep them coming in. gbviews@gbnews.com. Right, okay, Lee says, we've got some messages coming in as well. Oh, my God, that's frankly scary. Lee, good afternoon.
You're matching the wallpaper.
I know.
It's good.
That's really not helping. I don't match that wallpaper. It's lovely wallpaper. It's Christmas time at the tailors. Our 3-year-old keeps raiding tree decorations, however, not looking too bad. Merry Christmas. Meanwhile, David's living room. Do you have David's living room there? This is great. I love the fact that you're all watching this on telly. Thank you so much. This is a guarantee, by the way, to get your pictures on telly, is to do it when we're on telly. David says, Merry Christmas, Dawn. Love the show. GB News is the best news channel. I would totally agree with that one. Thank you so much for those. They're brilliant. Really cheering me up with my slight cough, obviously. You're watching and listening to Merry Christmas Britain with me, Dawn Neeson. Lots more coming up on today's show. Britain's news channel, GB News. Don't go too far.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes and Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christys Tonight is the week's biggest show.
Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else.
We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride.
Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse.
It's news, but it's this close to entertainment.
Patrick Christys Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News is Britain's news channel, and now you can support it. All you have to do is scan that QR code that's up on your screen right now, or you can go to gbnews.com/support and become a GB News member. You'll have fantastic benefits. We're also going to organise special events where you as GB News members can meet the presenters, the on-screen faces. Scan the QR code or go to gbnews.com/support. Thank you so much.
Welcome back to Merry Christmas Britain with me, Dawn Newsome, on your TV, online and on digital radio. Now, music is such a huge part of Christmas, isn't it? And a fair range of festive tunes to choose from. This year's Christmas #1 has been revealed as Wham's Last Christmas. The song was released 39 years ago and has been a favourite for decades. Shirley Kemp spoke to Anne and Pip on Breakfast about what it's like to be Christmas #1. Let's have a look.
Incredible. Last Christmas by Wham is this year's Christmas #1. It has taken almost 4 decades. And if you look very closely at that video, somebody you will see is Shirley Kemp of Pepsi and Shirley fame, great friends with George Michael and Andrew Ridgeley. And it is wonderful to talk to you this morning, Shirley, and say mega congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Morning, Pip. Morning, Anne.
Morning.
Yeah, really lovely. Really, what a way to spend Christmas, because, George loved his #1s. So I know he's around. It's like a really lovely nod to him. And I can feel him smiling and so happy that he's got the Christmas #1.
Oh, she looks amazing, doesn't she, as well? I'm really pleased for them. Now, joining me is Sarah Robertson, a showbiz commentator, to talk about Christmas looking very festive as well, looking gorgeous, Sarah. Sarah, it's amazing because everyone assumes that Last Christmas has been #1, and the fact that it never was is like, wow, it's one of those wow moments.
Yes, hello there, Dawn. That's correct. It's a real shame, actually, because when George Michael wrote that song, he actually wrote it to be a Christmas #1. It was meant to be a Christmas banger. But what happened was, when it was released all those decades ago, he was pipped to the post by Band-Aid. Don't they know it's not Christmas? And obviously that was the huge charity single. So going up against that, unfortunately, the timing was just terrible. So there's been this campaign, really, ever since then to try and get Wham! Last Christmas back to number one, or to have the number one that it never got and that it deserved the first time around. And it's just bittersweet. That's what Andrew Ridgeley was saying when he was interviewed about it. It's bittersweet that George, unfortunately, very sadly, has not been able to see that success, because he would have absolutely adored it and he would have been buzzing to see it after all this time finally get to that deserved spot that it should have had.
It's brilliant, isn't it? And of course, another sad loss this year was Shane MacGowan from the Pogues, and a lot of people thought that our Fairy Tale of New York would be Christmas number one this year.
Well, there was a campaign, Dawn, for that to actually take place. Unfortunately, it didn't happen here, but in Ireland, it is the Christmas number one in the Irish charts, which is fitting as well, obviously given Shane's Irish heritage and the fact he was seen as an Irish hero massively. So it's lovely that he's received number one there again, and I think that's a real tribute to him and also to the power of that song. But it's a song, again, like Wham's Last Christmas, the Pogues' Fairy Tale of New York. It's my favourite Christmas song, that and Mariah Carey. And it's something that stands the test of time because it was such a fantastic, the lyrics are just unbelievable. They're poetry. And Shane MacGowan was a genius. He really was a songwriting genius. So he's got Irish number one, which I think he'd be happy with. And I think he'd be more than happy for George Michael and for Wham to take the British number one. I think he'd say that's fine.
Absolutely, sorry. Of course, the other song that is constantly with us every Christmas is Mariah Carey, All I Want for Christmas Is You. Now, I don't think that's ever been number one in this country either, has it?
No, but people think of it as, well, they think of Mariah, don't they, as Mrs. Christmas. Yeah. So she sort of becomes synonymous with Christmas. They say when Mariah says Christmas has begun, that it's the Christmas season when Mariah says it. And I think it's because of the power of that song. But yet again, that's another one that people think, just presume, like they did with Wham's Last Christmas, that it was number one, because they're songs that have stood the test of time. And people know the lyrics to Mariah Carey's. When it comes on, everybody, loves to get up and dance. It's just got that feel-good vibe to it. But yet she didn't actually achieve that over here. But people love it. They know it. They love it. And it's something that's, gone from generation to generation. So actually you think, well, really, is number one really that important? If a song, does stand the test of time as Mariah's does, as Mariah's had, as Shane MacGowan, the Pogues, Fairy Tale of New York, as has Wham's Last Christmas. Actually, do you really care about it being number one if it's so loved and thought of? Yes.
Sarah. Oh, Sarah, I think we've lost you there, sweetheart. Sarah, thank you very much for joining us, and a Merry Christmas to you. Right, OK, let's talk to Esther Stanhope and Matthew Larser, who are still with me, about Christmas number ones. First of all, what's your favourite, Esther?
Christmas number one or Christmas song?
Christmas, yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it? You say Christmas number one, but
and it turns out that I didn't realise that Mariah hadn't.
Christmas,
yeah.
No. Do you know what kept that off that number one spot when it was released? It's back in 1994. Now, how old do you feel now? And
we were all very young at the time.
What was it in 94?
It was E17, Stay Another Day.
I was going to say, that's one of my favourites because, E17, I live in East London, you live in East London, and the other day they had a screen up in Spitalfields Market and they had Stay Now.
Oh, brilliant.
It's lovely.
But I'm so pleased for Last Christmas Day, because I think it is my favourite, and I'm so glad it's been number one. And, I mean, we just think, Wham and George Michael have such a huge new generation of fans who weren't even around when it was first released. Yeah. It's like, my friend goes and does the George Michael vigil, so we will go every year on the and he wasn't even here when it was first released.
Well, that's the thing.
He wasn't even with us.
It's a new generation.
It's a new generation making number one. Absolutely.
The thing I can't get what are the new Christmas number ones? I mean, Christmas number ones. I'm using the phrase.
Oh, even Christmas songs.
Cher.
Oh yeah, because that was used on Strictly Come Dancing.
Exactly.
But wasn't it all very auto-tuney? It didn't quite have the same.
I know. It was so funny. It was almost like AI had created a Christmas song.
It's literally sort of...
I love you, Cher, but it was kind of AI. It was like you put it into a machine.
But it's the death of the single is the issue, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because as we've seen the sort of decline of singles, it's all about album sales now and downloading a whole album. That it's not the same thing that it was.
It's not.
But thank goodness, whatever they were called, you know, the
Lad Baby.
Lad
what
Baby.
was that about?
Was it 3-4 years that we had it?
I don't even know.
But at least they did, and at least this year they bowed out gracefully.
Yeah,
so
I wasn't really a fan.
No,
of that. I'm more a Michael Bublé, even though it's cheesy. I quite like the old swing. I like Michael Bublé.
I think ultimately White Christmas, the original White Christmas is the...
Frank Sinatra.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We've got that. We've got the whole Frank Sinatra Christmas album.
Nat King Cole.
My mum's a massive Frank Sinatra fan growing up, so we had that we had Frank's Christmas every year, and you can't beat it.
We don't. I mean, I'm not even sure if Christmas Top of the Pops is on Christmas Day now. But you remember, it used to be like up there with the Queen's speech at the time.
Yeah.
And like the whole family.
Yeah, it was one of those absolute fixed points.
Yes. Yeah, gather round to find out what Christmas #1 was.
Yeah.
And now
we found out 3 days before. And at least, as we say, at least it's a proper song this year and one that unites the generations.
Yeah, no, it is absolutely. I guess because everyone's streaming things now, so you're not going out to buy albums in the way we used to.
No.
But it's like we need someone to come up with a really...
There needs to be something, because I think it brings people together, doesn't it? With different musical tastes all year, for 51 weeks of the year. But when it comes to Christmas, everybody, everybody unites around Christmas tunes. So, yeah, absolutely. We need a new one next year. Dawn,
I don't think it...
really? I mean, you've heard me coughing already.
I know, I've got a cough. I don't think it matters about the number, though. It's all about, how we feel about the song. Because last Christmas... It's always there every Christmas.
Yeah.
Does it matter if it's #1?
No.
Do we care about #1 anymore? In fact, who?
No, but it's
who
nice.
does the #1? What's the actual official?
Yeah, no, it's still the same people. Yeah, but but I mean, obviously now it's all it's basically 99% downloads. Apart from the few cool kids who buy it on vinyl.
Actually, Esther, coming to you because your daughter is 18 tomorrow, isn't she?
Yeah.
So how does the music cross the divide, the age gap in your household? I mean, does she like the stuff you were talking about?
You know what? One of her favourite Christmas songs is from the Eagles.
Oh, wow.
Which is the Eagles Christmas song? She likes the really old vintage stuff as well as the new stuff as well. She likes 70s music. She likes Michael... We'll sing it she might groan a bit if we play Michael Bublé. She loves Frank Sinatra, Nat King Cole. So we listen to all, music from all the eras. I think young kids now really like old music because...
I mean, when you watch the video of Last Christmas, and you see the shot of George's eyes, you just remember how hypnotic he was as a character.
What about his hair?
Yeah.
The hair
is amazing. I'm jealous.
Yeah. Did you ever have your hair like that, Matthew?
No, but I had curtains. Hugh Grant. There's a picture of me standing behind Tony Blair with curtains, and people don't realise it's me.
Oh, my goodness.
Right, we'll leave that debate there. Thank you to my panel. You're watching and listening to Merry Christmas Britain with me, Dawn Neeson. Let's see what the weather's coming up to, shall we?
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Greg Dewhurst and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. It is blustery out there, particularly across the northern half of the UK. Very strong gusts of 60, 70 miles an hour could lead to some travel disruption this Christmas Eve, and it's only replaced by further areas of low pressure as we move into Christmas Day. Plenty of isobars on the chart indicating it stays windy. For the rest of the evening time, blustery winds across much of the UK, particularly across northern Scotland, these tending to ease overnight. Further outbreaks of rain for southern parts of England and Wales. Clearer skies across Scotland will allow a touch of frost here, but for most of the cloud cover, it will be mild, 5 to 12 Celsius to start Christmas Day morning. We could see some brighter skies across central northern parts of England and also across northeast Scotland for a time, but then cloudy for most as we move through the day itself. Outbreaks of rain across England and Wales, which could be heavy at times, brisk winds too. Showery rain across Scotland, Northern Ireland, some of the rain falling as snow over the higher ground of Scotland, officially likely to be a white Christmas, but for the vast majority, mild and a wet Christmas, 12, 13 Celsius as a maximum temperature. The good news is, though, it'll be much drier and brighter on Boxing Day. Plenty of sunny spells, wintry showers across the northern half of Scotland on a brisk northerly breeze here, and temperatures back to where they should be for the time of year, but it doesn't last long as further wet and windy weather spreads in for Wednesday.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB.
Wake up to the headlines with headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christys Tonight is the week's biggest show.
Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else.
We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride.
Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse.
It's news, but it's this close to entertainment.
Patrick Christys Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
delicious.
mental?
Put in your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa!
Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamonn.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Have a great Saturday night with me, Leo Curse, on the Saturday Night Showdown. It's a crazy world out there, so come and make fun of it with me, my panel of comedians, and a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about. This Saturday Night Showdown is your front row ticket to the clown show, every Saturday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Merry Christmas, Britain. I'm Dawn Neeson, and for the next hour, I'll be keeping you company on TV, online and on digital radio. Coming up this hour, with the King's speech being a key part of Christmas Day, we'll be taking a look at what the royals are up to this year. And we'll hear from a reindeer owner who feared he would be lonely this Christmas, but has managed to find a new friend for the big day. And of course, isn't the Christmas period a great excuse to have a drink? We'll have to be making some festive cocktails to end the show. So please do get in touch. Send me your thoughts on GB Views at gbnews.com or message me on our socials. We're at GB News. But first, here's the news with Polly Middlehurst.
Dawn, thank you. Well, the top story from the GB Newsroom today is that weather forecasters are warning of strong winds with flying debris, perhaps, and even power cuts, potentially disrupting last-minute Christmas getaways for families. The Met Office says wind gusts of up to 70 miles an hour have hit parts of Scotland already today. Northern England is affected and the Midlands as well. And rail services have been delayed. London stations today closed. Euston, King's Cross, Paddington, all closed for essential engineering works. And as millions are on the road today, the AA is saying drivers can expect lengthy traffic jams as people travel to be with their families. And with that extra traffic on the roads, police are urging caution as well. In Northumbria, they're appealing for witnesses after 2 teenagers lost their lives in Cramlington in a collision last night. And in Lancashire, there has been an arrest after a woman and a teenager died and a child was seriously injured in a car crash in Oldham. Police in both instances are asking for witnesses or anyone with dash cam footage to come forward. Now, both main party leaders may be at odds in Parliament, but they're united in spreading their festive cheer this year as they deliver their Christmas messages to the nation. The Prime Minister has offered a promise of a brighter future, while the Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, used his message to say the story of Jesus Christ is a reminder that in dark times, hope and love are always worth advocating for. He joined Rishi Sunak in thanking frontline and key workers, as well as the military, for their service over the Christmas period.
Christmas is a time of peace, joy, compassion, a time of hope and a promise of a better world. And today, as we look ahead, let's keep that promise of a brighter future burning into the new year. Wherever you are, and whatever you are doing for the festivities, I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
As communities across Britain gather together for a period of faith and festivities, I want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas. Throughout the Christmas period, we see the bonds of kinship rekindled as families and friends share in the joy, the hope and the optimism that Christmas provides.
Now, the Home Secretary's in a spot of bother today. He's had to apologise for joking about putting a so-called rape drug in his wife's drink just hours after announcing government plans to crack down on drink spiking. James Cleverly was reportedly joking that he puts a little bit of Rohypnol in his wife's drink every night so she doesn't realise there are better men out there. The comments were said in private at a party in Downing Street, normally off the record, but the Sunday Mirror has broken that convention and chosen to report it. The Royal Navy is deploying a warship to Guyana as tensions grow with neighbouring Venezuela. HMS Trent due to take part in joint exercises in the region, with the MOD confirming it's all part of the government's defence diplomacy strategy. The UK working in coalition with the South American nation to ensure its international integrity after a historical dispute flared up again with Venezuela over minerals and recently discovered oil. Now, in London, a second man has been arrested in connection with the removal of a Banksy artwork. It was in south-east London, as a matter of fact. The piece, which was a stop sign covered with 3 military drone aircraft, was discovered at an intersection in Peckham on Friday. A man in his 40s was arrested on suspicion of theft and criminal damage. People stood around filming as they took the artwork down. Another man in his 20s arrested yesterday. The pair bailed, pending further inquiries. His Majesty the King delivering his second Christmas message, and from a room decorated with a living Christmas tree for the very first time. A photograph has been released ahead of tomorrow's broadcast of King Charles, who's a long-term environmental advocate. So sustainable and natural ornaments, we're told, are hanging from his Christmas tree, which itself will be replanted at a later date. And a reminder, you can see the King's speech here on GB News at 3 p.m. tomorrow, Christmas Day, of course. Let's bring you that all-important news on Father Christmas and the update. Let's take you live now to those NORAD pictures coming to us as Santa makes his way, delivering presents to children around the world. He just left Russia last time I spoke to you. We now understand he's on his way to Japan. This is pictures coming to us live from the North American Aerospace Defence Command, monitoring Santa's movements and defending him, protecting him as he drops those presents off across the world. NORAD tracking that annual trip since 1955 after one curious child phoned the command centre in North America wondering where Santa was. Well, now we know. This is GB News across the UK on TV, in your car, on digital radio and on your smart speaker. This is Britain's news channel.
Thank you very much, Polly. I'm sorry, I'm fascinated by that Santa tracker. It's just like, I'm just standing, where is he? Trying to work out where he is. I can't wait. It's so exciting, isn't it? Thank you very much, Polly. Let's get stuck into today's topic, shall we? Animals are frequently given as Christmas presents, but experts say they should never be given carelessly as gifts to anyone. Joining me now to give her take on pets as Christmas present is Susan Norbury from the RSPCA. Susan doesn't appear to be there. Susan, yes, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Now, we've seen over the years the Christmas campaigns, you know, a dog is for life, not just for Christmas. Is it still a thing that people do try to give pets as Christmas presents to one another?
I think some people do. We know that animals make a really amazing addition to any family, but we'd really recommend against giving them as presents, not just now at Christmas, but any time of the year. It's really important that people really carefully consider what's involved. So we do find that people give pets as presents. So we hope to just encourage people to really think it through. And if they are looking for a pet, to really consider adopting rather than shopping.
Right, when you say adopting, how does that work? What do you mean by that?
So as a charity, the RSPCA rescues animals from horrendous cruelty and neglect. At the moment, we're at a 3-year high for abandoned animals with more than 20,000 reports this year. So behind each of those numbers is an individual animal. They come into our rescue centres and they need someone to offer them that second chance once they're ready to be adopted. So we'd really encourage people to look on the RSPCA Find a Pet page, find out how they can give those animals that second chance, and they can learn all about what they need to make sure that they're ready for bringing an animal into their lives. So whether that's the cost of food, insurance, toys, bedding, grooming, we've got calculators that give people an idea of what's involved, as well as having all those animals there that are really in need of a second chance right now.
That's such a good advice there. Is it mainly dogs we're talking about? Because people sort of like, you know, the cute puppies, lovely for the kids on Christmas Day, or is it all sorts of other animals as well?
All sorts of animals, I'm afraid. So we've seen abandoned snakes, we've seen abandoned horses, we've seen the full spectrum of animals. It does tend to be cats and dogs that most commonly come into our care, but a lot of the smaller animals as well, so rabbits and guinea pigs, and perhaps when children get bored of those animals, they find themselves being abandoned or neglected and coming into the care of a charity like ours.
And what advice would you give to people who are struggling to cope with it? You say the cost of living crisis is biting everybody at the moment, and there are people who unfortunately feel they can no longer look after their pets. What advice would you give to them?
That's right. So we've got lots of advice, again, on the RSPCA website, where we've got pet food banks offering people support with pet help in that sort of way. Also advice on help with vet bills and different ways they can just make sure they keep their much-loved pets with them. So if people go onto the cost of living pages on the RSPCA websites, they can find out a lot more about how they can have that help and support out there as well. And as I say, we're at a really tricky time at the moment. We're seeing neglect and abandonment soar at a 3-year high. So we're asking people to help us as a charity, join the Christmas rescue, find out how they can help animals at this time. And one way might be to offer one a home as an adopted pet.
Susan, I want to ask on a personal level, you know, we see some horrific stories, especially at this time of year, of animals that have been ill-treated and abandoned. How do you work, when you work for a charity like the RSPCA, how do you cope with the emotional impact of seeing exactly how badly some animals are treated?
Oh, there's some shocking stuff that happens out there. People will know from our prosecutions just how awful people can mistreat animals. But I think the reward comes from seeing those that survive and recover, having a happy and healthy home with owners. Hopefully we've got lots of those happy endings where those animals who've really recovered, it's transformative to see them. And that's what keeps us all going as a charity, seeing those animals that we can help and that we're there for and that we can give that second chance they desperately need.
That's brilliant. And just a final bit of advice for people over the Christmas period, where you're sitting around the Christmas dinner table, you've got your dog sitting there begging for whatever you happen to be eating. It's really hard, isn't it, not to sneak them some Christmas food off the table. But I mean, how good is it for them to join in with a family Christmas lunch?
It really depends. There's things to be really careful of. So everyone knows about perhaps onions and onion gravy and chocolates and just the things that can cause some danger. So again, on our website, we've got loads of advice there. A lot of vets have advice on what you can give them. So perhaps a bit of the meats and the turkeys, avoiding the salty stuff, the chocolate and the raisins that could cause some of the damage, and just being aware that if they do consume something, keeping a close eye on them and getting that veterinary help if you need it. I appreciate it. It could be Christmas Day, it could be Boxing Day, but the guys in the veterinary profession do a brilliant job and they're there to help if people need them.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that people will be working, caring for animals with the charity over the Christmas period as well. Could you just give us paint a picture of what Christmas Day is like for the RSPCA?
Yeah, that's right. So it's a really busy time for our guys. They're out 365 days a year rescuing animals, as well as the ones that are in our centre. So it's business as usual for our charity rescuers. They'll be out there, whether that's rescuing wildlife, helping animals from neglect. And in our rescue centres, those animals will be given that extra special day with it being Christmas. But for our working teams, they do an amazing job and they'll be there making sure those animals get the care they need.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. That is Sarah Roberts, Suzanne Norbury, spokesperson for the RSPCA. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon, and Merry Christmas. And you do an amazing job, so please keep it up. Thank you very much. Now, the owner of a grieving reindeer who has been seeking a new friend has had a Christmas miracle, meaning the reindeer is no longer lonely this Christmas. Susie Wright, an animal sanctuary owner, feared her reindeer Sven would make himself ill when he was so lonely after his lifelong friend Klaus passed away. After launching a fundraising appeal, she has now been able to bring over a new friend just in time for Christmas. So let's go to our... Let's go over now to talk to our Susie Wright, who is animal sanctuary owner in Hull, with a happy reindeer story for us. Susie, tell us more about this story. Yeah. It sounds lovely.
Hi, yeah, so, it's a really lovely story. Unfortunately, we lost Klaus this year and left Sven on his own. So we did a fundraiser using Just Giving and managed to raise the money to get him a friend.
And how did this happen? And where's the friend from? I mean, tell us more.
Right, OK, so Daisy came to us. She came from Worcester. So we set off, so we'd raised the money, and then we set off and went to collect her from Worcester, and now she's here with us.
Excellent, and they're very happy together. They're getting on straight away. Oh, look at that! How lovely do they look? And they're very happy together.
Yeah, they're getting on beautifully.
So, I mean, Susie, I mean, obviously, I know about Santa's reindeers and I know about Rudolph, but what are reindeers actually like as animals? Are they very sociable creatures? Do they need that companionship?
Yeah, they absolutely do. They're herd animals, so they're not used to being on their own. So when we lost Klaus, the first thing that we had to do was to try and find Sven a friend as soon as possible. Otherwise, they can become ill. But thankfully, we have.
And what difference has it made to Sven?
Oh, he's a completely different creature. He's happy. I mean, he was getting a bit grumpy before, and he was pacing, showing that behaviour. Which animals can show by pacing that they're unhappy. That's all gone now, and he's done amazing.
Oh, that's brilliant. And how common are reindeers in the UK?
Not that common. I think we're one of the only places who have in East Yorkshire that have reindeer 12 months of the year on site. There's a few more down south from here, and there is a maintained wild herd in the Cairngorms in Scotland, but they're quite rare.
OK, and can people come along and meet your reindeer?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we are open to the public as an education centre. We will be closing for our winter season from tonight. So tonight's our last day, and then we'll reopen in Easter when you can come and see the reindeer and all our other wonderful rescue animals, which is what we do as well.
Oh, that's brilliant. And how do people get in touch with you? How do they find you?
So we've got a website, and we're also on Facebook, Little Haven Farm.
Brilliant, thank you very much. And what special treats will you be giving to the reindeer this Christmas Day?
Absolutely, carrots, and they like a bit of parsnip as well. So they'll be having lots of food like that. But yeah, they need lots of carrots to keep them going, especially over the next 24 hours.
Brilliant, thank you very much. That's Susie Wright, Animal Sanctuary owner in Hull there. Thank you very much, and Merry Christmas, Susie. What a lovely story.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Isn't it?
And that's so sad when he was all on his own, but now he's got somebody. But it does remind us that, you know, Christmas is a time for families, but it's also a lot of people are on their own, and, you know, make sure that you knock on the door of a neighbour or say hello in the street even can make a difference, can't it?
I think that's such an important message, isn't it, Esther? That we do. I mean, it's not obviously reindeer get lonely, but people get lonely as well. And a lot of people are on their own at Christmas, and we're sitting around sparkly tops and hats and having a lovely time. But it is important to think of other people that might be on their own and keep an eye out, certainly on elderly relatives.
Yeah, I think loneliness is a major... I mean, this is the one day of the year, isn't it, that nowhere is open. You can't just go somewhere, the shop or whatever.
Yeah.
I think people get worried about what they're going to do on Christmas Day. Yeah. So I know people that are kind of desperately trying to meet up with friends or go for dinner at with this part of the family or that part of the family. You're going with friends.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, if people find themselves on their own this year, just remember it is, as my mum used to say, it's just another day. So yes, you can have fun if it's going to work for you, but don't feel that being on your own is in any way problematic. It isn't. It's just life sometimes.
Yeah, I've got a friend who lost his wife sadly around this time of year, and every year now religiously he goes and works in a homeless centre.
That's brilliant. Yeah.
It helps him as well, and it helps the people that he's working with. And there are so many ways you can do that to help other people, aren't there?
Totally. So many ways you can help other people, and also don't be hard on yourself. Don't make Christmas Day can be fun, but don't make it something that's not fun if things are a bit tough for you.
Christmas Day is a difficult day to navigate. I think it's difficult for the lonely people, but it's also difficult for people that have to...
Absolutely. If you're on your own, remember, you're not with difficult family members, which some people have.
Blended families, family in the morning, family in the evening. I mean, I've got a lot of friends that have stories of different families, different relatives. Some are going in, some are going out. So it's a difficult day all round, actually.
Just do your own thing, even if that is on your own. Just make it about you and self-care is important.
But you are on your own, aren't you, Matthew? You don't have any family.
No, and absolutely, but that's great because I spend Christmas with the same group of friends for 5 years.
Yeah.
But growing up, it was just me and my mum. Most of my family were in Australia, and sometimes you look around and you'd think, oh well, people have got 50 people around the table, for Christmas dinner, or not 50, but 15 maybe. And then you think, oh, why aren't we having Christmas like that? And then you think, we've got a very special day, just celebrating what we feel about each other. So there isn't the cornflake packet sort of image of a family. You see lots of ads with Christmas. The Christmas ads become such a big thing, don't they? With we've all got to have a Christmas day that looks like that. You don't. You have a Christmas day that works for you. That's what I say.
Actually, that's an interesting point, because you think some of the Christmas adverts, certainly this year, I mean, the John Lewis one is a point in question, isn't it? Where it's a mum and her little boy, and there's no dad around. We don't know the reason why, and I've got the Venus flytrap, which is a bit weird, but it's using that message that not every family comes as that nuclear family.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know that many families that are not normal. What is normal?
And all those nuclear families with 50 people around the table, there are tensions between those people. But just going back to what we're talking about, posh presents, because I don't spend Christmas with the family, my friends love them than I do. I say posh, it's a no presents policy. So me and my bestie were going, we went and secretly swapped presents the other day. We're going to open them in the morning before we go, because it's so middle class, no presents rule. But that is a sign of being posh, isn't it?
That is a bit middle class, isn't it? That is.
So we secretly,
posh.
We've got our secret present swap before.
Showing your class there.
Absolutely.
But, I mean, we do invest so much emotion in this time of year, and there is that pressure. You feel that if you haven't got the right present, you haven't got the right food. But I think basically the message is that it's what makes you happy, what makes your loved ones happy, and spending time with one another surely is the most important gift we can give one another.
Yeah, I can't stand the pressure. I mean, I can be a little bit humbug. I can be a bit of humbug sometimes because I think it's only a day.
Especially with parents, it's such huge pressure.
Yeah, it's a huge pressure.
So it's have a great day, but hugs are free. And they're the best gift of all.
That's lovely, isn't it? I would go over and hug you now, but I've got a terrible cough. It's not contagious, by the way.
And those sparkles might come off.
Yeah, and my sparkles might scratch
We'll have
you,
a
they
hug
are.
before we part for the celebrations. But
After
I think
the cocktails.
after the cocktails. But I just think it's so important that people don't put pressure on themselves.
Yeah.
There isn't such thing as a right present. There isn't such a thing as a right way to do it. We're joking aside. There isn't a right time to have your meal or whatever. It's just what makes you happy, and it should be a day for happiness.
And there isn't such a thing as a right family
Totally.
dynamic either.
Totally.
Like, even I have a nuclear family. I'm very lucky. I've got 2 kids, but you know, it's not that easy holding it together.
No. And, you know, and the other thing is that our services out there, if people are feeling the pressure tomorrow, you know, go online, seek out help. Obviously, the Samaritans are always there, but there's lots of other support as well for people when it just gets too much, which it can easily do. So you're never alone.
I think that's a
never
good point.
ever alone.
And I tell you where, that's where the radio comes in handy.
Yes.
And obviously GB News is on the radio all over the Christmas period. So if you are feeling lonely, just turn GB News on, and we're sitting here chatting. You can get in touch. You can send your.
And I'm back in the morning anyway with Patrick and Emily, so you can't get rid of me.
Not quite sure that's selling it as well. I was hoping to there, Matthew.
If you need a hug, you know where to come.
Yeah,
that's all I can do. I can do hugs and champagne bottles. That's the range of my skills.
I'm there. Actually, I'm so there on Christmas Day with you, Matthew. That's great. Thank you very much. Now, back to you at home. I asked earlier to send in pictures of your Christmas trees and Santa's helpers. So, Dawn, great name, Dawn. I love that, Dawn. You're in Malaysia, though, much more. Oh, look at that. Hi, Dawn. Merry Christmas. A Londoner watching GB News in Malaysia. The big tree is in the other room. You don't want to look at your tree, you just want to look at the telly, don't you? That's much more fun. Meanwhile, Alan and Chrissy wish everyone at GB News a very Merry Christmas, and the same back to you as well. That looks very organised, doesn't it? The presents are actually bigger than the tree. Just pointing that out there, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Right, OK, and, oh, I love this one. Yeah, thank you. Dawn, wishing you a very happy Christmas from Denise and Sam up the Ammers. Love that. Look at that. That is a top Christmas tree. Meanwhile, Susan says, Merry Christmas to all GB News, and she's loving the show. That's brilliant. That's like, oh, that's
Another
lovely.
very smart tree.
That is really nice.
But, Dawn, we just have in Malaysia. You know about this tradition in Japan? Have a KFC on Christmas Day.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
it's massive in Japan. People queue for hours outside KFCs in Japan.
Why?
I don't know. It just started. It's fried chicken. Obviously, not a Christian country, so it's not quite the same day. But it's like it is literally the biggest thing in Japan. KFC on Christmas Day.
Right. OK, that sounds a bit wrong for me. Right. OK. For actually, and more people. I think 60% of people are more than happy with a takeaway on Christmas Day now, rather than traditional.
Well, do you hear that 3 million people are going to swap the roast potatoes for chips?
On Christmas chips?
No.
According to a survey, 3 million British households will be doing that this year.
That's wrong.
I think it's wrong.
I'm sorry. I mean, you've got to put up with Brussels sprouts.
I think that's wrong.
You've got to put up with Brussels sprouts.
But do what you want. We can't say do what you want.
Do what you want. It's Christmas.
Sprouts are the food of the devil.
You want KFC,
you and I agree on this. Esther doesn't.
Yeah, well, she can do sprouts, evidently. Right, anyway, for all the best analysis and opinion on all the stories we're covering today, go to our website, which is gbnews.com. You are watching and listening to Merry Christmas Britain with me, Dawn Neeson, and there's lots more coming up on today's festive show, including the best way to deal with annoying family members over the Christmas period. Sorry, darling. Stay with that to hear more about that. All of that and much more to come. You're watching and listening to GB News, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christys Tonight is the week's biggest show.
Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else.
We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride.
Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse.
It's news, but it's this close to entertainment.
Patrick Christys Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes and Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you. Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to GB News Sunday with me, Dawn Newsome, on your TV, online and on digital radio. Now, this year's Royal Christmas is expected to slightly break from tradition as King Charles has decided to expand his guest list, inviting the Queen's children to join in the festivities at Sandringham. The King is reportedly hurt at the prospect of not being able to spend Christmas with his grandchildren, Archie and Lilibet, though. So with me in the studio to discuss the Royal Christmas in general is historian and broadcaster Rafe Hedo-Manku. Rafe, thank you so much for joining us. Resplendent in festive green, looking gorgeous. So I'm going to start with the King's speech, to be honest with you, because it's all over the papers today. He's standing in front of this very, what's the word?
Very edible tree.
Eco-friendly tree, yes. It's got, well, bits of orange hung on it, basically.
That's what I mean.
So, yeah, so tell us more about what we can expect from the King's speech, which you can watch on GB News at 3 o'clock tomorrow.
Yes, do tune in on GB News to watch this. It's the 91st King's speech, every year since 1932, when King George V delivered the first one, televised since 1957 with Her Majesty. And, of course, we don't really know the full content. We know that His Majesty, more than the Queen, actually, has really written this himself, with only having it run over by the private secretary with some input. So this is very much the King's personal message.
Is that slightly dangerous?
Well, he's discovered actually quite late in life that he actually works best when he's written something, and he tries to write it as late as possible, because he finds off-the-cuff remarks suit him much better than prescripted things, which can, of course, go wrong, but we assume it won't. You know, last year was very much a tribute to his mother. This year, of course, the living tree that we're seeing in the images that we have so far suggests that the environment and sustainability will likely be one of the topics addressed. We know that's a big hobby horse of his. And, of course, he'll be delivering it this year from Buckingham Palace rather than from, say, Windsor Castle, with that famous balcony behind him, which I think is a quiet nod to the coronation. And then this was my year, of course. You all remember that balcony scene with me wearing the crown. Here I am your king. And, you know, other issues we can probably expect to have, maybe the cost of living crisis. I suspect there'll be some sort of reference to peace around the world, given what's happening with in Gaza and with Ukraine. But also, of course, I think a lot of stress also perhaps on family and unity. The royal family always try to project an image of togetherness and family at this time of year. But of course, in recent years, that's become all the more important given certain developments that we've seen.
Which brings me on to the fact that the picture of him standing in front of his tree with the balcony in the background and no family pictures. Now, even the Queen, God bless her, got in trouble, didn't she, for when her Christmas broadcast and she had the family pictures. And people would analyse which pictures were in the background, and once there was no picture of Harry and Meghan. And so so he's avoiding all of that as well, isn't he?
Yeah, I think that's quite diplomatic. People always analyse the background to see who's in, who's not in. It's rather like those pictures on the Kremlin when you would see who is there and who's in favour, who's not in favour. And of course, we know that the reason that Harry and Meghan were omitted from one of the Queen's images was because they wanted to show the direct line of succession. They were trying to streamline the monarchy. It wasn't done deliberately as a snub, although that's how it was interpreted by the Sussexes. And this, I think, is a much more diplomatic way to go about it. Have a nice window shot behind you instead of the usual
It's very diplomatic. So talking of the Sussexes, you mentioned them, not me. Do we know what their plans for Christmas are? Is there any sign of communication between the brothers, for example, William and Harry?
Well, you know, given the formality of the Christmases that Prince Harry grew up in, I think he much rather enjoys that sort of laid-back California-style Christmas. Perhaps, you know, just having, you know, some sliced ham and so forth rather than the usual turkey, because they have that on Thanksgiving, of course, don't they?
Yeah.
This may be the very last year that they're at Montecito, given that they want to up sticks and move to Hollywood. So whether they're going to be spending it at Montecito with Meghan's mother, Dora, or whether they want to go on holiday remains to be seen. But I suppose they might want to spend their last Christmas at Montecito if they are going to be going away.
But it is sad that, you know, the King won't be spending any time with Archie and Lilibet.
It is. It's sad, but not unexpected, of course. But after the book Endgame by, you know, Harry and Meghan's selfie stick in waiting, Omid Scobie, I think it was all but inevitable that there was no chance of a reconciliation in the short term. But to make up for that, of course, we now have a break with tradition where we have the Queen has invited her children and her grandchildren to attend. So there will be many new young voices there, 8 in total, new people coming to the festivities this year. So there'll certainly be no shortage of young children running around.
I would love to get the kids' opinion on this tree, I must admit, because kids like sparkles at Christmas, don't they? And this literally has pine cones and bits of dried orange.
I think Buckingham Palace is quite sparkly anyway.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Thank you very much, Ray, for that one. Now, coming up next, I'll be getting my hands on a few more drinks in a live Christmas cocktail class here in the studio. You don't want to miss this, really. See you in a few minutes. Don't go too far.
Let's just bring you some breaking news we've received within the last 10 minutes or so. A man has been arrested in connection with the death of a woman in a suspected hit-and-run crash in Essex. Marie Theobald and her 2 dogs were killed. They were out walking their dogs on Friday in Chigwell. In a statement, her family have described her as a loving mother and daughter who would do anything for anyone. Meanwhile, the Met Office says winds and gusts of up to 70 miles an hour have been hitting Scotland, Northern England and the Midlands today. Major London rail stations are closed completely, including Euston, King's Cross and Paddington, all closed for essential engineering works. And the AA saying the extra millions of cars on the road means that drivers can expect severe congestion. A second man has been arrested in connection with the removal of a Banksy artwork in south-east London. The piece, a stop sign covered with 3 aircraft that looked like military drones, was discovered in Peckham on Friday. A man in his 40s was arrested on suspicion of theft and criminal damage. Another man in his 20s was arrested yesterday and bailed pending further inquiries. And as you've been hearing, the King will deliver his second Christmas message from a room decorated with a living Christmas tree for the very first time. King Charles, a long-term environmental campaigner, so sustainable and natural ornaments, we're told, are hanging from his tree, which itself will be replanted at a later date. And a reminder, the King's speech will be live here on GB News tomorrow, 3 o'clock, Christmas Day. More on all those stories by heading to our website, gbnews.com.
GB News is Britain's news channel, and now you can support it. All you have to do is scan that QR code that's up on your screen right now, or you can go to gbnews.com/support and become a GB News member. You'll have fantastic benefits. We're also going to organise special events where you as GB News members can meet the presenters, the on-screen faces. Scan the QR code or go to gbnews.com/support. Thank you so much.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christys Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christys Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa! Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamonn.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Wake up to the headlines with headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes and Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Have a great Saturday night with me, Leo Curse, on the Saturday Night Showdown. It's a crazy world out there, so come and make fun of it with me, my panel of comedians, and a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about. This Saturday Night Showdown is your front row ticket to the clown show every Saturday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Merry Christmas Britain with me, Dawn Neeson, on your TV, online and on digital radio. Now, it's the most wonderful time of the year, and I've got a gift for my wonderful GB News viewers right now. With me in the studio is mixologist Brian Levito, who is here to show us how to make the best cocktails this Christmas, so you can impress your family and friends in preparation for New Year's Eve as well, obviously. Well, and the days in between, because it's Christmas, why wouldn't you? So now, it's joining me now is the founder and of Mixologist Express, Brian Levito. Brian, you've got an amazing, impressive array of drinks in front of you.
And implements.
And implements, yes, absolutely. So, what cocktail are you going to start us off with? I mean,
so this
one sounded quite sexy. The one you were just
does, yeah. That's it. So this is my creation, and this is a Christmas cocktail, and it's called Under the Mistletoe.
We like that one. We like that one already.
Yeah. This is gin-based. So should I proceed?
Absolutely. Go. Yeah. Fire away. So,
great. So we're gonna add some.
I feel like we should have some mistletoe.
Yeah. Why not?
Yes.
That would be all right. Okay. So, what I'm going to do with this cocktail, we're going to have to shake all the ingredients.
Right, okay.
So... Oh! You didn't expect that. All right.
Oh,
you can be Tom Cruise.
Perfect.
I'd failed Disney if I was doing that.
You start off with some gin.
We start with some gin. We're going to add 50 milliliters of gin.
If you're listening on the radio, by the way, Brian is actually pouring this in a way that most of us would try. It's very, very moving hands around, and it's brilliant. It's very, very impressive. But you can also just pour it straight like most of us would do.
Or you can measure it, but, you know, that would be boring.
No measuring on Christmas.
No,
Absolutely.
that's right. And so we're going to add some cranberry juice. So I would say about 100 milliliters.
It's like the film Cocktail, isn't it?
A little bit.
You're better looking than Tom Cruise.
Thank you.
These ones.
Right. So a little bit of elderflower cordial.
Just moving these down here for you.
Oh, perfect.
Actually, I'm not. I'm actually just moving the gin closer to me, which is
we
probably
thought that, Dawn. We didn't like to say anything.
So I added some lemon juice as well, and just a dash of grenadine to give a little bit of colour. All right. That should be it. Then all we're going to do is shake the cocktail. That's it. OK. Anyone fancy a shake?
Esther, you...
I will.
All right,
I'm a girl who likes
it. Won't fall apart, will it?
Yeah, just shake like that. Great. See, I got my assistant.
You're very good, Esther.
Can I have a shake?
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Hold it together, hold it together.
No, I'm going... No. It's very solid.
Oh.
Great. So this is a traditional cocktail shaker that you can get in any supermarket or anywhere, like...
Anywhere. Or online. I've got this from Bartels Express.
Okay,
so,
fine.
you know.
And the strainer you're using is... being a Philistine here, could I use a tea strainer if I just have a tea strainer at home?
To be honest, yes. You don't need a strainer, or you can just use the shaker and kind of do that.
Oh, yeah.
Just to stop the ice
Right.
from going into the glass. That will be perfectly fine.
Or a sieve.
Then we're going to add a marshmallow. Great.
What, can you just hold it up for the... Oh, my God, yeah. Can you just hold it up while you're doing this so the camera can see it properly?
Like that?
Right, yeah, that's perfect, I think.
Then we're going to burn a little bit, make it more Christmassy. That's it.
Oh, my God.
That's incredible.
If you're listening on the radio now, Brian is now toasting a marshmallow that he has put on top of his cocktail. It's very impressive. I would have now set
We just hope the fire alarm doesn't go off, yeah.
Yes. Alcohol and fire doesn't sound like a good combination to me. Oh, my
There you
God,
go.
that is beautiful.
Anyone wants to give it a try?
No, let Esther have a try.
Yeah, a little try. Okay, I'm not going to burn myself.
Lovely.
Oh.
I know,
I'm going to sit from the other side.
Yeah.
It's got...
Who gets the marshmallow? Esther, do you want the marshmallow?
Oh, yes, thank you. Dawn, would you like a bit of marshmallow?
No, I'm fine, thank
it's
you. I'll let
lovely,
you
that.
have
It's
them.
very fruity, yeah.
So that's a gin-based one, and it's called, again...
Under the Mistletoe.
Under the Mistletoe.
I think that's already your favourite, isn't it, Dawn? I think that's,
Under the Mistletoe is
You wanna
always good
try
for
it?
me, don't worry.
You're going to try it, Dawn?
I will do, thank you very much indeed. And it's got a little...
Candy cane.
Candy cane, that's the word, isn't it? Candy cane. These are the things you used to hang on the tree, aren't they? Thank you very much.
Prince Charles wouldn't
It's
have this.
very
Too much
fruity.
sugar for Prince Charles.
Oh,
It's really nice,
that's
isn't it?
really fresh, isn't it? Is that the cranberry
Lovely.
juice that balances the gin out?
Yeah.
And what time of day should you be drinking this on Christmas Day? What would be a good time to drink
I would say... So, just any time.
I love that. I love that. You're a man after my own heart.
Maybe 12:05.
Sort of, kind of breakfast? It's
You could
Christmas
have that
Day.
for
You
breakfast.
get Christmas
Because
Day.
Bucks Fizz is normally actually a disaster, isn't it?
That is particular.
Cocktail
So that's
anytime.
under the mistletoe. Where are you taking us next?
Right. So...
Something in here?
Something in here, for sure. So, do you like espresso martini?
Oh, yes.
Yes. You know
I
what?
do love it.
I don't like coffee, but I had an espresso martini the other day, and I
I'm the
really
same.
enjoyed it.
I'm the same.
What's that about? I don't know.
Anything tastes good with vodka, so...
Yes.
That's
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Right, so we're going to make one of those. However, we're going to add a little twist. So we're going to make a peppermint espresso martini just to make it a little bit more Christmassy.
Yeah.
Let's say-
Peppermint.
Yeah. Crikey.
Yeah. Why not? Yeah, let's give it a try.
The key thing is ice. People don't never have enough ice in this country.
No, this is the thing, actually.
We don't have
I was
ice
gonna
makers. Only
mention
few people
that
have ice makers.
Yeah, our freezer, like everyone's at this time of year, is so stuffed with stuff.
Okay.
I don't even know what half of it is, to be honest with you, but it's the ice.
So make sure, in the last couple of hours of the shops, go and stock up on ice. That's my one Christmas tip.
Right, so we're going to start with vodka. Going to add 50 milliliters of vodka.
I love the way you just do that.
Brilliant.
Oh.
And
a little extra.
I will do a little more, but just sitting down. So
No, that's fine, absolutely.
So we're going to add some coffee liqueur as well. So just about 20 milliliters.
Okay.
That's it. Should be enough. Little bit of the peppermint syrup. I would say 10 milliliters.
Okay.
So just, yeah, should be fine. And then coffee.
Oh.
Again, apologies if you're listening on the radio, but Brian just picked a bottle up and then literally threw it in the air.
You've got to, when you get home, you've got to have a look on YouTube, haven't you? If you're listening on the radio, or on the website, catch up later.
Get on the website. All of this will be on there for the perfect cocktails for Christmas Day.
So we're going to shake the cocktail.
And how to make them.
All right. So get ready for this. I've got something special.
Oh.
Oh, yes. So going to have our...
Oh, I love those glasses.
Yeah, this is a coupe glass.
I never knew that's what they were called. Ah.
Yeah, it's not martini, but martini is like no one uses it anymore. Everyone just uses the coupe. It looks nicer. It's more premium.
Is it true? You might not even know this, that those glasses were based on Marilyn Monroe's breasts.
I've never heard that.
No, absolutely. I did hear once.
It could be true.
Yeah. The coupe.
It used to appear on your Christmas cards your gran sent you, didn't you?
Yes,
You know, have it, the sort of...
And it's meant to be the best way to drink champagne over then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It opens up.
This is for champagne. It was made for champagne. So anyway...
Can you just hold it up, Brian, so we can see it on camera properly?
After this, I need to do something else, so this is a surprise.
Finished yet.
Oh, wow.
This is obviously the candy cane again, just to make it a little bit more Christmassy. And then I've got something else, which I'm going to let you try as well.
Oh my God. Right, OK, this is like a giant bubble. That was a bubble of dry ice?
No.
No, it's, what is it?
So this is a cloudy aromatic bubble that you can put in the drinks. So this is flavoured with coffee, and you can go on the drink and, just make
This is like a giant
You want to give it a try?
Yeah,
Can you hold it up again, Brian, now, please?
Of course.
So we can see?
So I put that on there.
That is like a giant bubble on an espresso martini.
Can I do a bubble on a bubble?
Of course.
She's going to
let's do it with that.
Okay.
Right? Go.
Ooh.
Okay, that's it.
Right, OK. While Esther's playing with the bubble machine...
Wow, first try.
That's amazing.
I wasn't even able to do that.
I'm just going to... If you'd like to try these cocktails at home, all the details are on the website, by the way, but you might want to win some money to afford them. And so we have got £10,000 in cash, brand new tech and shopping vouchers to give away. And you could be the winner and you could buy all the cocktails in the world. Might not even have to make them. You could probably get Brian around to do them for you. Here's all the details of how you can make those prizes all yours.
This week, we're launching the Great British Giveaway. Your chance to grab some amazing prizes and start your new year the right way. You could win an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Imagine having all of that extra cash in your bank account. We'll also bring you bang up to date with the very latest iPhone 15 Pro Max. And we'll give you £500 worth of shopping vouchers to spend in the store of your choice. For your chance to win the iPhone, the vouchers and £10,000 cash, text GBWIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB01, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday the 5th of January. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Good luck.
Right, OK. This is the last cocktail that Brian made for us, right? This is the espresso martini. Does it have a proper name for it, though, this one? It's like...
No, just peppermint espresso martini.
Peppermint espresso martini, and it came with a giant bubble, which naturally I've burst because I'm a West Ham fan. That's what we do. Now, Brian, thank you so much for coming in today. So, you know, Christmas Day seems to be the one day of the year where it is acceptable to start the day with a Bucks Fizz. Now, what is the correct way to make a Bucks Fizz? It sounds simple, but...
This is just orange juice and champagne.
But is there an amount you should put in? Yeah.
No, to be honest, you can put just probably 20 milliliters of the orange juice, and then fill it up with the champagne. But to be honest, you can do it as...
Or you can just forget the orange juice, which is even better.
Have you met my husband? You really have met my husband. You've been speaking to him, haven't you?
Yeah.
OK, and what other... I mean, these are lovely, but what other traditional cocktails are there that go with the Christmas Day?
Let's see. I don't know. I like to make them up myself.
Right.
To make them Christmassy. I never really...
OK, so if you were coming around my house tomorrow, and you were invited, by the way, what cocktail would you make for our Christmas lunch?
So I will definitely make you this too.
That's lovely.
All right? I've got another one that I made. It's called the Grinch.
I know someone that could suit that.
That I make it that with rum, apple liqueur, apple juice, and lemon juice. I shake that, pour it into a glass, little pineapple, cherry.
So it's very green.
Very green.
Very green. Like Gremlins, the film we were talking about, where they end up liquidising a little gremlin thing. And it's... yeah, I'm sorry, I'm going off on a tangent here, aren't I? Probably too much. Okay.
We're loving it.
And to... yes, whatever. And to round the day off, to sort of like you're heading off, you've had a marvellous day with the family, you haven't managed to row out too much. What is the classic cocktail to finish the day with?
This is a tough one.
What's your favourite to finish a day off?
I'd say a whiskey sour.
Oh,
yeah.
that's
Finish strong.
Cool.
Yes.
But still not too strong, you know.
No.
Because you still got the whiskey with the lemon juice, the sugar, a little bit of angostura.
That's a classic, isn't it?
That is a
And you
classic.
feel
Classic,
quite
isn't it?
sophisticated
Yes.
drinking that.
Yeah.
You can. I would feel more sophisticated with an old-fashioned, but, you know, I think that would be too strong for me. So
What about my husband's favourite is a Long Island iced tea. Now, purely because it's got loads of alcohol in it. That's not the way to approach cocktails, is it?
No.
No. Just so working that one out. OK, so what do we make, panel? What's your favourite one so far? Is it the espresso martini with our peppermint, or is it the under the mistletoe?
I think the under the mistletoe is really... I like the cranberry. It's so Christmassy.
It's so
But they're both
fruity.
great. You have the Christmas twist on traditional.
But when I tasted
yeah.
the espresso martini and had a bit of peppermint, it reminded me of a matchmaker.
Oh, the taste of Christmas.
It reminds me of Christmas. It reminds me of my grandma.
Or the after eights.
Yeah, after eight mints,
The box
exactly.
of after other chocolates are available, by the way. The after eights used to get in that box and in the little brown paper wrappers.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you'd always think there was loads left.
And people put them back.
Yeah, people put the wrappers back. That's it.
they're
That's
evil.
the point I was
They're
going to.
evil.
And you
Sorry,
go in there and it's like there's just wrappers.
Yeah.
That's always so disappointing.
This is giving us an insight into the Newsroom family here,
Yes,
you know.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
sorry about that. So I mean, what I'm gonna. Are you going to put all the recipes on the website so our viewers and our listeners can find out how to make them up? Indeed, actually, thank you very much. What is the most popular cocktail in this country at the moment? Do you know? I mean, obviously you're an Italian, so it's.
I think it was espresso martini.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're really big now.
I think
Yeah.
I think I read that somewhere. I think it was.
And in which do you get asked for most?
Passion fruit martini.
Oh, I don't like passion fruit, so that wouldn't be one for me.
Yeah.
What about porn star martini?
That's the one. I didn't want to say that.
It's the name of a cocktail. We can say that. Okay. And how do people get in touch with you? Or where can we come and try your cocktails out? How does it work?
So we don't have a bar, a physical bar, but we have mobile bars. So if you're planning a party, an event, corporate events, we do come with a bar, all the cocktails, and the bartender, and we just, get everyone drunk.
But that sounds fun to me. Yeah. And how long does it take you to train to do all the mixology stuff? I mean, it's so impressive.
It takes a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to practice a lot, learn all the recipes, learn how to balance the cocktail, and all the different making techniques. Because every cocktail has a different method.
It's like a degree course, isn't it? Thank you very much.
It's good to have an expert.
Tell me about it. Yeah, so thank you very much to Mixologist Express Brian Lovato. Thank you very much for joining us on Christmas Eve, and to my brilliant panel for keeping me company for the last 3 hours.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining me. You've been watching and listening to Merry Christmas Britain with me, Dawn Neeson. But don't go anywhere, because Nana's up next. And we have to, before we go to Nana, though, we have to check what Santa's up to. Where is he? Where is he? He's in China. OK, yes, I love this. I could watch this all day. And OK, Santa is in China, so he's on his way. So make sure you are on the nice list, not the naughty list. So it just remains for me to wish you all a very, very Merry Christmas. Thank you for watching. GB News is all over Christmas break. So and here's the weather, by the way, to find out what's happening. Thank you very much.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Greg Dewhurst and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. It is blustery out there, particularly across the northern half of the UK. Very strong gusts of 60, 70 miles an hour could lead to some travel disruption this Christmas Eve, and it's only replaced by further areas of low pressure as we move into Christmas Day. Plenty of isobars on the chart indicating it stays windy. For the rest of the evening time, blustery winds across much of the UK, particularly across northern Scotland, these tending to ease overnight. Further outbreaks of rain for southern parts of England and Wales. Clearer skies across Scotland will allow a touch of frost here, but for most of the cloud cover, it will be mild, 5 to 12 Celsius to start Christmas Day morning. We could see some brighter skies across central northern parts of England and also across northeast Scotland for a time, but then cloudy for most as we move through the day itself. Outbreaks of rain across England and Wales, which could be heavy at times, brisk winds too. Showery rain across Scotland, Northern Ireland, some of the rain falling as snow over the higher ground of Scotland, officially likely to be a white Christmas, but for the vast majority, mild and a wet Christmas, 12, 13 Celsius as a maximum temperature. The good news is, though, it'll be much drier and brighter on Boxing Day. Plenty of sunny spells, wintry showers across the northern half of Scotland on a brisk northerly breeze here, and temperatures back to where they should be for the time of year, but it doesn't last long as further wet and windy weather spreads in for Wednesday.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes and Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel,